Chapter 35-41. Before leaving the Demon Saint Palace, Zhuowen disguised himself. At the same time, he also sealed his cave abode in Area D with restrictions before leaving the Demon Saint Palace. Although the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company was also in the Demon Saint Heavenly City, it was in the opposite direction of the Demon Saint Palace. The Demon Saint Heavenly City occupied a large area, so it took Zhuowen several hours to arrive at the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. As soon as he entered the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, he saw from afar that there were many demon clan cultivators gathered in the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Zhuowen was startled. It seemed that he had underestimated the popularity of the auction this time. This Spirit Phoenix Trading Company probably gathered nearly half of the demon clan cultivators in the Demon Saint Heavenly City. Zhuowen paid a certain amount of Heavenly Dao origin crystals and entered the auction site. The auction this time was held in the largest pavilion of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Originally, Zhuowen wanted to buy a VIP seat, but unfortunately, the VIP seats in the auction site were basically all reserved, so he had no choice but to enter the main hall and squeeze in with the many demon clan cultivators. It was said that those who could reserve a VIP seat were either great forces in the Demon Saint Heavenly City or great powerhouses with exceedingly high cultivation. Of course, with Zhuowen's identity, as long as he sent a message to the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's Bailey Jingluan, then Bailey Jingluan would immediately arrange a VIP seat for him. However, Zhuowen didn't plan to do that. His only purpose in coming here was the item that could weaken the Blight Tribulation in this auction. At this moment, the huge main hall was practically packed with people. It was bustling with activity, and there wasn't even the slightest bit of extra space. Zhuowen frowned. The environment of this main hall was too bad, but he had no choice, and could only endure it for now. At the same time, his divine sense also swept out, and swept through the entire auction site. He discovered that most of the VIP seats in this auction house were half-step shattering heaven-tier cultivators. Although Zhuowen's divine sense was extremely unbridled, his spirit was too powerful, and had long reached the peak of the fifth blight. If he didn't want others to discover him, there really wasn't anyone in this part of the galaxy who could discover his divine sense probing. Great Guardian. All of a sudden, Zhuowen's divine sense stopped at one of the VIP seats. In this VIP seat, he actually saw a familiar red-faced old man. It was the great enforcer of the Demon Saint Palace. What surprised Zhuowen even more was that the Great Guardian wasn't the only one in the VIP seats. There were two other figures as well. Zhuowen didn't recognize these two figures. They were a middle-aged man with dark eyes and a young man with a pale face. Moreover, the young man was seated at the head of the VIP seats while the Great Protector stood beside the young man. His expression was cautious and his eyes were filled with respect. Hey! This great enforcer is second only to the Eastern Emperor Tai Yi in the Demon Saint Palace. His authority is monstrous, so why would he be so respectful to an ordinary-looking young man? Zhuowen was flabbergasted, feeling incredulous. Suddenly, Zhuowen discovered that the young man, who had been motionless, suddenly opened his eyes. A strange light burst out from his eyes. In this strange light, Zhuowen's divine sense was greatly shaken, as if it had been firmly grasped by some invisible hand. Zhuowen's heart trembled and he hurriedly withdrew his divine sense. However, his expression didn't look too good. This pale-faced young man was definitely not a simple person. He seemed to have noticed his divine sense. Fortunately, Zhuowen withdrew his divine sense in time, so although the young man had noticed his divine sense, it was unrealistic for him to find the source of his divine sense. Zhuowen's heart was full of doubts. Just who was this young man that he could make the number 2 figure of the Demon Saint Palace be so cautious and respectful? What made Zhuowen even more curious was that the young man was actually able to notice the scanning of his divine sense. Such ability was absolutely extraordinary. At the very least, Zhuowen felt that no one in the starry sky could easily detect the tracks of his divine sense. However, this young man was able to detect something was wrong in such a short time. This made Zhuowen extremely wary. At this moment, in the VIP seats where the Chief Guardian was, the pale-faced young man frowned slightly. His gaze fell on the hall below as if he was searching for something. Young Master Shu Yuan, What's wrong? The chief guardian asked in a deep voice when he saw the young man frown slightly as if he had something on his mind. Nothing, I must have been thinking too much just now. The young man shook his head. He had just sensed a divine sense fluctuation pass by the VIP seats, but now that he carefully sensed it, he couldn't find anything. He even suspected that it was an illusion. Chief Guardian, will there really be a profound sky-sea settling vine this time? The young man asked lazily. The chief guardian smiled and said, Young Master Shu Yuan, don't worry. According to reliable news, the profound sky-sea settling vine will indeed appear in this auction. This news is absolutely true. Good. The profound sky-sea settling vine is a supreme treasure of heaven and earth that can weaken the blight tribulation. If I can obtain this profound sky-sea settling vine, I won't have to fear the fourth blight tribulation. I can immediately transcend the tribulation and advance to the supreme fourth blight realm. The young man's eyes were bright, and his voice was filled with fervor. The auction was finally about to begin amidst the hubbub of bustling voices. Zhuoan didn't expect the host of this auction to be Spirit Phoenix trading firm's Bailey Choling. He had to admit that Bailey Choling was very eloquent. When she introduced the auction items, her expression and actions were perfect, attracting the gazes and thoughts of many cultivators. The first treasure is the early stage Ascension Realm Divine Pill, the 7 Profound Meridian Connecting Pill. This pill's greatest effect is to help cultivators at the early stage Ascension Realm and below clear the impurities in their meridians and expel them from the body. Thus, their meridians will be unblocked, and their cultivation speed will be significantly increased. It's a rare divine pill. Bailey Choling began to introduce the first auction item. As soon as she finished, the sound of bidding immediately rang out in the hall, rising and falling one after another. It was very lively. In the end, the 7 Profound Meridian Connecting Pill was sold for 1,300,000 high-grade Heavenly Tao Origin crystals. It was sold to an early-stage Ascension Realm cultivator in the hall. Zhuoan shook his head inwardly. This 7 Profound Meridian Connecting Pill was only an early-stage Ascension Realm Divine Pill, and its value was at most 700,000 to 800,000 high-grade Heavenly Tao Origin crystals. Now that it was auctioned, its value doubled. This was simply a huge profit. The following auction proceeded in an orderly manner. Many good items appeared, causing the crowd to boil with excitement, and the sound of bidding continued. Zhuoan, on the other hand, didn't bid from beginning to end. He had countless Heavenly Tao Origin crystals on him, but he didn't plan to participate in the auction. He wanted to wait for the mysterious item that could weaken the blight tribulation to appear. His main goal in this auction was to obtain that item. In fact, during the auction, a half-step heaven breaker cultivation method appeared. Although it was somewhat incomplete, it still caused an uproar in the hall. Those in the VIP seats who had been silent all this time also began to participate in the auction, and the price of the half-step heaven breaker cultivation method was raised to an extremely terrifying height. The auction was quickly approaching its end. Suddenly, a palm-sized bronze cauldron appeared on the center stage. Chapter 3542. Soul-nourishing pot. Bailey Choling held the cauldron and asked mysteriously, "Everyone, do you know the origin of this cauldron?" Bailey Choling's question piqued everyone's curiosity. Many of them asked what was so special about the little cauldron. This cauldron was once used by the Pill Array Immortal Lord to refine divine pills. It's called the Minor Immortal Lord Cauldron. Its value is immeasurable and it has great collection value, Bailey Choling said calmly. The Immortal Lord Cauldron? No way, isn't it always in the Pill Array Immortal City? How could it be here? I was lucky enough to see it with my own eyes. It was so majestic that the world changed colors. How could it be like this? Someone in the auction house questioned Bailey Choling, thinking that she was fooling them. Bailey Choling didn't panic. She smiled and said, "Didn't I tell you? It's called the Minor Immortal Lord Cauldron. You may not know, but this cauldron was used by the Pill Array Immortal Lord in his early years before he became famous. It's broken and can't be used now, but it has immeasurable collection value. If that fellow Daoist is interested, you can auction it off and keep it as a collection." The starting bid is 1 million high-grade heavenly law origin crystals. Each bid must be at least 10,000. Bailey Choling's smile was a little awkward. She didn't understand. Although this was a cauldron used by the Pill Array Immortal Lord, it was still something he used in his early years. Moreover, it was so broken that it was almost useless. There was no other use for it except as a collection. She didn't want to auction it off or even lower the price, but the auctioneer clearly asked for this price. This made her feel a little helpless. As soon as Bailey Choling finished speaking, the entire auction house was terrifyingly quiet. No one bid at all. The cultivators who came here were not fools. Naturally, they came to the auction house to buy something useful for their cultivation. This cauldron was so broken that it could only be used as a collection. Spending more than 1 million high-grade heavenly law origin crystals just to buy a collectible was a little too extravagant. Bailey Choling's expression became more and more awkward when no one bid. Her smile was a little forced. 1,010,000. Just when Bailey Choling thought that no one would bid for the cauldron, a calm and hoarse voice rang out. Everyone's gazes converged on the owner of the bidding voice at this moment. They discovered that it was a middle-aged man with a yellow face. He was very unremarkable, and even his cultivation was very ordinary. Is there something wrong with this guy's head? He's giving away money to the auction house. This kind of useless thing has to be auctioned off. At the scene, there were many people who were secretly laughing at this yellow-faced middle-aged man. This yellow-faced middle-aged man was Zhuoan in disguise. His spiritual force was far more powerful than anyone present. Even Shu Yuan's spiritual force couldn't compare to Zhuoan's. Therefore, when the small bronze cauldron was taken out, he had already investigated it thoroughly. This small bronze cauldron was indeed broken enough. It was almost impossible to refine a divine pill. Other than being ornamental, it was really useless. However, Zhuoan discovered a very obscure restriction inside the small cauldron. The restriction was very weak. Even an ordinary half-step divine formation master might not be able to detect it. Moreover, this small bronze cauldron had something to do with the formation pill master. Therefore, Zhuoan made up his mind to bid for the cauldron. He suspected that this small bronze cauldron must contain the secret of the formation pill master. He didn't want to let go of this possibility. As soon as Zhuoan's voice fell, almost no one bid. Zhuoan easily obtained the small bronze cauldron. After taking the small bronze cauldron, he didn't rush to undo the restriction inside the cauldron. Instead, he put it away and continued to wait in the auction house. Following that, the auction house brought out more and more precious items, and the bidding became more and more intense. In particular, many important figures in the VIP seats began to bid one after another. Clearly, even these important figures were tempted by the later items. On the other hand, although there were many monster clan cultivators in the main hall and it was almost crowded, they all ceased bidding and didn't participate in the bidding for the later items. They also knew that the items that appeared in the later stages of the auction were too precious. The prices were also frighteningly high. It was not something they could afford. Therefore, compared to the heated bidding in the VIP seats, the spacious main hall was much quieter. This is the soul nourishing pot. It's an ancient artifact. It contains a mysterious power that can nourish the soul. It has unimaginable benefits for the soul. Although it has been here for countless years and is now broken, it still has great benefits for the soul. The starting price of the soul nourishing pot is 10 million heavenly law origin crystals. Each bid must not be lower than 100,000. The bidding starts now. Bailey Choling took out a green porcelain pot. The surface of the pot was surging with misty green qi. The moment Zhuoan looked at the soul nourishing pot, his eyes lit up. Such an item that nourished the soul was extremely rare. To think that such an item would be auctioned in this auction. Zhuoan possessed the tyrannical soul sword intent, a spirit attack technique. However, every time he condensed the soul sword intent, it would cause great damage to his soul. Even though his soul was modified by the primordial stone and became much stronger than before, the soul sword intent still caused great damage to his soul. He urgently needed some method to recover his soul. And this soul-nourishing pot was clearly suitable for his current situation. The moment the soul-nourishing pot appeared, those important figures in the VIP seats opened their mouths to bid. The price of the soul-nourishing pot was pushed to 20 million heavenly law origin crystals. The speed of this increase made everyone click their tongues. Zhuowen did not bid immediately. He was waiting for the right opportunity. When the price rose to 25 million, the bidding voices clearly quieted down. Clearly, the price of the soul-nourishing pot rising to such an extent already exceeded the budget of most cultivators. 30 million heavenly law origin crystals. This seat is the Wanzhong Poison King. I hope that fellow Taoists can give this soul-nourishing pot to this seat on account of my face. A dark and cold voice suddenly sounded from one of the VIP seats. The originally bidding voices also suddenly came to a halt. Clearly, there were quite a number of people in the other VIP seats who were extremely afraid of this so-called Wanzhong Poison King. It's actually the Wanzhong Poison King. This is the itinerant cultivator that's the hardest to provoke in the demon region. It's said that his already second blight cultivation. Plus, he doesn't belong to any sect, so he doesn't have to worry about consequences at all when doing things. Whoever provokes this person will deal a killing blow to their juniors. He's a vicious and merciless half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouse who stops at nothing. The surrounding people were quietly discussing, their expressions reverent. Zhuowen's eyes flickered, and he suddenly opened his mouth to bid. 31 million. The moment these words came out, the gazes of all the cultivators in the entire auction house landed on Zhuowen in the hall. Chapter 35-43. There's actually such a courageous ant in the Great Hall. In the VIP seats where the Great Guardian was, the young Xu Yuan sneered and glanced sideways at Zhuowen, who was in disguise in the lobby. He could tell at a glance that Zhuowen was in disguise, but he wasn't surprised. In the lobby of the auction house, most of the demon race cultivators were actually in disguise. After all, the lobby wasn't like the VIP seats. It had the function of blocking divine sense detection. As long as someone bid, they would become the focus of attention at a glance. It was difficult to hide their identity, so they naturally had to disguise themselves. In addition, the aura Zhuowen revealed was indeed very ordinary, so Xu Yuan showed disdain. He felt that this person was really overestimating himself and was courting death. With Xu Yuan's identity, he naturally didn't put the Wanzhong Poison King in his eyes. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't need the soul-cultivating pot, he would have bid long ago. How could the Wanzhong Poison King be so arrogant? Who are you? How dare you bid with me? The VIP seats where the Wanzhong Poison King was seated were initially silent. Soon after, the Wanzhong Poison King's dark and cold voice was emitted. Accompanied by a terrifying aura, it instantly suppressed Zhuowen. Zhuowen's surroundings suddenly became much more spacious. Many demon race cultivators subconsciously distanced themselves from Zhuowen to avoid being implicated. Wanzhong Poison King, this is the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Private fights are not allowed here. The Wanzhong Poison King's terrifying aura was instantly shattered by a ripple of array Dao. There was actually a rather powerful half-step heaven-breaking array at the auction site. The Wanzhong Poison King frowned slightly but didn't say anything. Although the Wanzhong Poison King was a second blight cultivator and his cultivation was stronger than the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's old ancestor, Bailey Jingluan, he was still a rogue cultivator. And this Spirit Phoenix Trading Company was not simple. There was a half-step heaven-breaking array in the trading company. If he acted recklessly, he was likely to be left here, and the gains would not make up for the losses. The reason why so many major powers were wary of this Poison King Wanzhong was mainly because this fellow was a rogue cultivator. If they offended such a powerful rogue cultivator, this fellow would pester them relentlessly and deal with the juniors of various powers. In any case, this guy did not belong to any sect or faction. He was a loner. If they really offended him and their juniors were targeted by him, it would be a disastrous blow to every faction. Therefore, many major forces did not want to offend Wanzhong Poison King. Although they were not afraid of Wanzhong Poison King, he was still a big trouble. They would try their best to avoid offending him. Wanzhong Poison King continued to bid, 30,200,000. If anyone dares to bid against me, don't blame me for not showing mercy after this. This was a blatant threat, and it was directed at Zhuowen. Everyone thought that the yellow-faced middle-aged man would shrink back and stop bidding with Wanzhong Poison King. Who would have thought that the middle-aged man would be so calm as he continued to raise the price by 100,000? This caused the Wanzhong Poison King to explode in anger. You're very good. This Spirit Phoenix Trading Company isn't safe. If you don't pay attention after going out, it's very easy to lose your wife and your men. You won't even be able to save your life, Wanzhong Poison King said as he stared fixedly at Zhuowen. Then you don't have to worry about it. Zhuowen replied indifferently. Humph. Wanzhong Poison King snorted coldly and stopped bidding. Although he still had more heavenly Tao origin crystals on him, this soul-cultivating pot's price already greatly exceeded his budget. He did not plan on fighting to the death with this hothead in the hall either. Furthermore, he had already made up his mind long ago. After this person left the auction house, he would immediately tail behind and then silence him to seize the soul-cultivating pot. This fellow Daoist, I wonder if you have enough heavenly Tao origin crystals? After Zhuowen won the soul-cultivating pot, Bailey Choling stood on the stage and asked while looking at Zhuowen with a grin. Clearly, the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company doubted whether Zhuowen could afford this soul-cultivating pot's price. After all, a fellow who could not even reserve a VIP seat was not considered a well-known figure in their view. They did not believe that this person really had so many heavenly Tao origin crystals on him. Zhuowen looked at Bailey Choling and discovered that the latter did not hit the transaction hammer for a long time. He knew that Bailey Choling wanted to test his purchasing power. If he could not take out so many heavenly Tao origin crystals, Bailey Choling would very likely sell this soul-cultivating pot to Wanzhong Poison King, and he might be arrested by the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company for cheating. Zhuowen took out a spirit ring and handed it to the staff member who came down. That staff member checked it and nodded at Bailey Choling. This fellow Daoist, the soul-cultivating pot is yours from now on. Bailey Choling smiled sweetly and hit the transaction hammer. And that staff member handed the soul-cultivating pot to Zhuowen. When Zhuowen took the soul-nourishing gourd, he sensed several spiritual consciousnesses on his body. Moreover, these divine senses did not have good intentions. Zhuowen put away the soul-cultivating pot and sneered in his heart. It seemed that he had become the target of many people. After this auction ended, it would not be easy for him to leave so easily. These malicious divine senses scanned Zhuowen's body and left a divine sense imprint on him before retracting their divine senses. Zhuowen's gaze was cold. It was too easy for him to remove the divine sense imprint on him, but he did not do so. The auction continued. The next few items were all extremely precious and the bidding was extremely heated. The next item is the last item of this auction. A staff member walked to Bailey Choling with a tray covered by a red cloth. Bailey Choling's tone was rather excited as she spoke. Bailey Choling lifted the red cloth and what appeared in front of everyone was a verdant vine. This vine was only the size of a palm and was planted in a small white porcelain pot. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary vine. However, if one were to take a closer look, they would be able to see that the surface of the vines was emitting extraordinary ripples. These ripples contained an extremely profound rhythm of laws. At this moment, the entire auction house was extremely silent. Even the drop of a needle could be heard. Everyone stared unblinkingly at the vine in Bailey Choling's hand. This is the profound sky-sea settling vine. This is an item from the ancient era. As for what grade of treasure it has not been determined yet. However, it has a very miraculous function, and that is, when a half-step heaven-shattering cultivator is undergoing their blight tribulation, this item can effectively weaken the power of the blight tribulation and reduce the burden on the cultivator. Bailey Choling's beautiful eyes lit up. Although she was far from being a half-step heaven-shattering cultivator, a treasure like the profound sky-sea settling vine was extremely tempting. She was no exception. It's actually the profound sky-sea settling vine. When the Spirit Phoenix trading firm advertised, they said that there would be a supreme treasure that could weaken the blight tribulation. I've always been curious about what it was. Who would have thought that it would actually be the profound sky-sea settling vine? I've only heard of this item in legends. I've never seen it before. Today, I'm actually seeing the real thing. Am I seeing things? The auction house quickly became noisy. Everyone was in an uproar. The starting price of the profound sky-sea settling vine is 30 million high-grade heavenly Dao source crystals. Each bid must not be lower than 1 million, Bailey Choling said solemnly. 31 million, 35 million. Chapter 3544. Curtain drop 70 million. All of a sudden, a clear voice sounded out. The originally noisy bidding suddenly became dead silent. One gaze after another landed on the source of this voice. This person was seriously too bold to actually raise the price by 20 million in an instant. Zhuowen looked at the VIP seats at the source of that voice, his eyes narrowing slightly. This VIP seat was precisely the VIP seat where Chief Protector was seated. And this voice clearly belonged to that young man sitting in the main seat of the VIP seats. Looks like this person's objective is this profound sky-sea calming vine, Zhuowen muttered to himself. Since the beginning of the auction until now, this young man hadn't bid a single time. But now, he'd bid such a high price in one go. Obviously, the objective of this trip was the dark sky ocean settling vine. The silence of the auction venue did not last for long. Bids sounded out once more. It was just that this time, the bidding voices were clearly much fewer. The price also rose very slowly. When the price rose to 75 million, that Xu Yuan's voice sounded out once more. 100 million heavenly Dao origin crystals. The moment these words came out, everyone in the entire auction house sucked in a cold breath. 100 million high-grade heavenly Dao origin crystals. This amount was seriously too enormous. Even some major factions probably also found it hard to take out so many heavenly Dao origin crystals all at once. Who in the world was this person to actually call out such a crazy bid? Bailey Choling was shocked too. She originally thought that this profound sky-sea calming vine's price being able to reach 80 million plus was already very heaven-defying. But she did not expect that the price directly soared to 100 million now, exceeding her expectations. Xu Yuan stood in the VIP seats. When he saw that the surrounding people no longer had anyone bidding, the corners of his mouth revealed a hint of a smug smile. He knew that this profound sky-sea calming vine would be his soon. Are there any higher bids? If there aren't, this profound sky-sea calming vine will be this honored guest in VIP seat number 1 right away. Bailey Choling was excited until her pretty face flushed red. Who? You can knock the hammer now. There shouldn't be anyone who will call out a higher price. Xu Yuan was in a very good mood, opening his mouth to urge Bailey Choling to knock the hammer. 100 million. This profound sky-sea calming vine, I'm taking it for sure. Zhuowen said coolly. This sudden bid immediately caused the entire auction house to fall silent. Numerous gazes fell on Zhuowen once again. Everyone revealed looks of disbelief. Because the person bidding was actually the yellow-faced middle-aged man in the lobby. Everyone revealed surprised and bewildered expressions, suspecting that the yellow-faced middle-aged man's identity was not ordinary. After all, this guy had just spent over 30 million heavenly Dao origin crystals to buy the soul-nurturing pot, and now he wanted to spend over 100 million to buy the profound sky-sea settling vine. This wasn't just being rich and overbearing, it was practically being a spendthrift. Xu Yuan's face stiffened, and the corners of his mouth twitched. He looked at Zhuowen with an unfriendly gaze, but didn't say anything. Instead, he raised the price to 110 million. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up. He knew that Shu Garden's financial resources were limited. Otherwise, it wouldn't have increased by so little. 111 million, Zhuowen said indifferently. You have guts. You actually dare to bid against me? Xu Yuan's eyes were cold as he stared at Zhuowen. He couldn't help but speak. He had only brought 110 million with him this time. This was already his limit. Moreover, Xu Yuan couldn't figure out how the yellow-faced middle-aged man in the lobby was a wandering cultivator with mediocre cultivation. Where did this person get so many heavenly Dao origin crystals? One had to know that even some powerful factions wouldn't be able to obtain over 100 million high-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals even if they sold their entire fortune. However, this guy who looked like a wandering cultivator actually casually called out such a price. It was truly inconceivable. Xu Yuan returned to his seat, took a deep breath, and said coldly, "Chief Protector, investigate this person's origins for me." "Young Master Xu Yuan, you don't plan on bidding?" The Chief Protector nodded and asked in surprise. Veins bulged on Xu Yuan's forehead. "I don't have enough heavenly Tao origin crystals on me. This one still has quite a few heavenly Tao origin crystals on me. Young Master Xu Yuan, you can." The Chief Protector hurriedly said. "No need. This person dares to bid against me for the profound sky-sea calming vine. At this moment, he's already a dead man. And his item will be mine next. There's no need to bid against him." Xu Yuan leaned lazily in his chair, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Xu Yuan's VIP seat did not bid again for a long time. Bailey Choling finally dropped the gavel, and the profound sky-sea calming vine was obtained by Zhuoan in the end. Zhuoan sighed lightly. Over 100 million heavenly Tao origin crystals was a huge sum even to him. If it were before, he really might not be able to take out so many heavenly Tao origin crystals. However, he had just obtained 10 supreme-grade heavenly Tao origin crystal veins from the Thunderbolt trading firm. Each of those veins was worth over 10 million heavenly Tao origin crystals. Those 10 supreme-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals were probably worth over 100 million heavenly Tao origin crystals. Zhuoan planned to use those 10 supreme-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals to exchange for the profound sky-sea calming vine. "Fellow Daoist, the implications of your transaction are too great. Therefore, we must go inside to discuss in detail." Bailey Choling looked at Zhuoan coquettishly. Zhuoan nodded and followed Bailey Choling into the auction house without the slightest carelessness. And the auction also ended at this moment. The originally bustling hall became rather deserted at this moment. There were many figures moving about in the VIP seats. Although they had left their seats, they did not go far. Instead, they hid not far away from the Spirit Phoenix trading firm, waiting for Zhuoan to appear. The most precious item in this auction was the profound sky-sea calming vine. If this item was auctioned off by a major faction or super powerhouse, no one would have any improper thoughts. However, the one who auctioned off the profound sky-sea calming vine this time was actually just an unknown itinerant cultivator. Moreover, his strength was mediocre. Therefore, many people set their sights on Zhuoan. When Zhuoan entered the room, he discovered that apart from Bailey Choling, there were several other figures standing in the room. One of them was very familiar to Zhuoan. It was the ancestor of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm, Bailey Jingluan. The others were all peak Empyrean masters. They should be the upper echelon of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm. "I am Bailey Jingluan. I heard from my daughter that you bought the profound sky-sea calming vine for 111 million heavenly Tao origin crystals. May I know your name?" Bailey Jingluan was the first to greet him. "I am Nianxue. I indeed bought the profound sky-sea calming vine." Zhuoan nodded. Chapter 3545. No need to trouble yourself. Your Spirit Phoenix Trading Company plans to renege on your debt. Zhuoan frowned, his gaze calm. When Bailey Choling had asked him to enter the room alone, he had already guessed, so he wasn't surprised at this moment. "We don't want to renege on our debt, but to save your life. Fellow Daoist, do you know how many people covet this profound sky-sea settling vine? The honored guests in the VIP seats that have come to participate in the auction this time are basically all experts of various large forces. At the very least, they're elites at the peak of the heaven-piercing master realm, and there are also some elites that are half a step into the heaven-piercing realm. Are you sure you'll be able to walk out of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company with the profound sky-sea settling vine?" Bailey Jingluan's gaze was solemn as he looked at Zhuoan, his voice grave. "Your Spirit Phoenix Trading Company is one of the 4 great trading companies of the Demon Realm, second only to the Demon Saint Palace. Could it be that your Spirit Phoenix Trading Company can't guarantee a smooth exit?" Zhuoan sneered. Bailey Jingluan shook his head. Rumor has it that the 4 great trading companies are second only to the Demon Saint Palace. Do you really believe that? If that's true, then this old man's cultivation wouldn't be first blight, but second or even third blight. There are still some hidden factions in the demon realm, and these factions all have half-step heaven-piercing realm experts. There are even a few half-step heaven-piercing realm itinerant cultivators who obtained great fortuitous opportunities. For example, that Poison King Wanzong. Although he's an itinerant cultivator, he's a second blight expert. Our Spirit Phoenix Trading Company can't afford to offend him. Apart from that, there are also other hidden factions that our Spirit Phoenix Trading Company can't afford to offend. If you voluntarily give up the profound sky-sea settling vine, we'll auction it again, and you can also avoid death. This is the best of both worlds. Zhuowen's gaze revealed surprise. It seemed that the demon realm situation was far more complicated than the Xian Mi heavenly domain and the primitive desolate heavenly domain. Although there were hidden factions in the Xian Mi heavenly domain and the primitive desolate heavenly domain, no matter how strong they weren't as strong as those on the surface. However, the hidden factions of the demon realm seemed to be much stronger than the ones on the surface, and the 4 great trading companies were completely crushed. Seeing Zhuowen fall silent, Bailey Jingluan lightly sighed, knowing that Zhuowen was moved. As long as Zhuowen gave up on the profound sky-sea settling vine, their Spirit Phoenix Trading Company would be able to auction it off again. After all, if their Spirit Phoenix Trading Company were to give this treasure to an independent cultivator like this, it would easily arouse the displeasure of many powers. At that time, it would be difficult for their Spirit Phoenix Trading Company to be caught in the middle. Fellow Daoist Bailey, I bought this profound sky-sea settling vine with real money, so why should I return it to you? Your Spirit Phoenix Trading Company is afraid of those experts outside, but that doesn't mean that I, Nianxue, am also afraid. Zhuowen said in a very calm tone. You're just an itinerant cultivator who hasn't even reached the half-step heaven-crushing stage. What right do you have to say something like that? You're simply overestimating your capabilities. Leave. To be. A middle-aged man standing beside Bailey Jingluan took a step forward and stared at Zhuowen, a powerful aura gushing out and crushing towards Zhuowen. This middle-aged man wasn't weak. He was a peak master of heaven ascension. He wanted to force Zhuowen to submit with his aura. After all, the lone cultivator before him was just an ant with mediocre cultivation, so he planned to use force. Bailey Jingluan frowned slightly, but didn't say anything to stop him. He couldn't just give the profound sky-sea settling vine to Zhuowen. It would cause a huge mess, and the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company would offend many people. Bailey Jingluan also doubted that this guy was just a lone cultivator. Could he really take out 111 million high-grade Heavenly Dao origin crystals? After all, the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company had been in business for so many years. Taking out so many things at once would be a huge blow. And this was the entire trading company, while this guy was just a person. Splat. Just as Bailey Jingluan was deep in thought, the middle-aged man suddenly sat on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood, looking at Zhuowen in horror. At the same time, the entire room was filled with an extremely terrifying aura. It was suffocating. Bang! Bailey Jingluan, who had been sitting, had his chair directly shattered. He knelt on one knee on the ground, his breathing ragged and his expression terrified. Bailey Choling and the others were even worse off. They directly lay on the ground and began to vomit blood. At this moment, everyone's minds were buzzing. They realized that the person before them was just a worthless lone cultivator. He was a peerless expert whose strength was far more terrifying than they had imagined. Sir, we were rude before. Please forgive us and spare our lives. Bailey Jingluan hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed in apology. The others were all trembling. They were so suppressed by Zhuowen's powerful aura that they couldn't even speak. They were extremely terrified at this moment, cursing this person for pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. At the same time, they were also extremely worried. With this person's terrifying strength, killing them would be as easy as flipping his hand. At this thought, they were filled with regret. They had actually pretended to be weak in front of such an expert. Wasn't that just courting death? Hand it over. I bid for the profound sky-sea calming vine, so I naturally have the right to have it. As for those fellows you mentioned who coveted my things, today, I will make all those who provoked me disappear. You don't have to worry about that. Zhuowen shrugged and looked at Bailey Jingluan coldly. Bailey Jingluan's scalp went numb. He sighed softly and finally handed the profound sky-sea calming vine to Zhuowen. There are 10 tokens in this ring. They are supreme-grade Heavenly Dao Origin Crystal Transfer tokens. They are worth more than 100 million, enough to bid for your profound sky-sea calming vine. Zhuowen tossed one of the rings to Bailey Jingluan and left the room. Bailey Jingluan didn't dare accept Zhuowen's things at first, but by the time he was about to speak, Zhuowen had already left. Bailey Jingluan sighed softly. He opened the ring and looked at it, finding it familiar. Hey! This is the Thunderbolt Trading Firm's transfer token? I know who this senior is. Bailey Jingluan's eyes narrowed as his gaze turned complicated. He hadn't expected this wandering cultivator to be that person. What he found strange was why that person hadn't sent him a message before coming. He would have prepared a VIP seat for him. Forefather. You know that person just now? Who is he? And he just went out like that, isn't he afraid? After all, there are so many experts waiting for him outside. Bailey Choling forced herself to stand up, still fearful. She couldn't help but ask curiously when she saw Bailey Jingluan's appearance. You don't need to worry about this senior. With this person's strength, those people outside really might not be able to kill him. Chapter 3546. Impersonation and escape. The moment Zhuowen walked out of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, many divine senses landed on him. Furthermore, these divine senses were very unbridled and extremely brazen. And at the periphery of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, there were even many demon race cultivators gathered. These were mostly people in the auction house's lobby. When they saw Zhuowen come out, they very tacitly revealed pity on their faces. They were very clear that this yellow-faced middle-aged man in front of them was finished. After all, this guy overestimated his ability, actually daring to bid for the profound sky-sea settling vine. This became a delicious cake in the eyes of those powerhouses in the VIP seats. A man's wealth is his own ruin. This person had no background and would eventually become the target of public criticism. It could be said that he was dead for sure. Trash. You finally came out. This seat warned you long ago. Not only did you not listen, you actually dared to snatch this seat's thing. This seat came here today to collect the debt. If you don't want to die, obediently hand over your spirit ring. A figure finally could not hold back and slowly came out from the dark. It was precisely that Wanzhong Poison King. This Wanzhong Poison King was dressed in a black robe, his face full of holes. His appearance could be said to be incomparably ugly. But this guy's aura was very powerful. He was actually an initial stage second blight powerhouse. Moreover, the moment this Wanzhong Poison King appeared, Zhuowen discovered that this guy had already secretly poisoned him. He was not unfamiliar with this poison. It was the 3000 ecstasy incense, a poison that could instantly cause a cultivator's mind to become muddled. It was very effective on cultivators below half-step heaven-shattering realm. The auction clearly marks the price of things, the highest bidder gets it. I paid a higher price than you, and I got it. Why did it become snatching in your mouth? Zhuowen said calmly. Wanzhong Poison King's brows furrowed slightly. He sized up Zhuowen in surprise and bewilderment. He clearly secretly gave Zhuowen the 3000 ecstasy incense. This guy should be unconscious now, why was he still so awake? Quite bold. Since you won't hand it over today, then I can only make a move. After Wanzhong Poison King finished speaking, he decisively made a move. With a wave of his sleeve, poisonous fog suddenly spread out, covering the sky and earth as it enveloped Zhuowen, instantly drowning out Zhuowen's figure. As soon as the poisonous fog appeared, many of the surrounding demon clan cultivators had already retreated far away. Wanzhong Poison King's poison was very terrifying. They did not dare to touch this poisonous fog. Otherwise, they would not even know how they died. Many experts who were observing in the dark frowned secretly. This Poison King Wanzong's poison fog actually had the ability to block spiritual sense. The moment their divine senses came into contact with the poisonous fog, they were all blocked outside. Now, they couldn't see clearly what was happening inside the poisonous fog. Within the poison fog, Poison King Wanzong's eyes were cold as he rapidly closed in on Zhuowen. He had purposely released the poisonous fog in order to quickly get rid of Zhuowen. Then, he would take the things on Zhuowen's body and escape immediately. Whether it was the soul-cultivating pot or the profound sky-sea settling vine, they were both supreme treasures. How could he let them go? Furthermore, even though this lone cultivator before him was weak, the fact that he was able to take out so many Heaven's Path origin crystals meant that he must have quite a few secrets on him. These things would all belong to him in the future. Hihi, die. You lone cultivator, your strength is weak but you are very arrogant. However, today, I will let you see how great the price of arrogance is. After you go to the netherworld, you must remember that when you are not strong enough, don't act tough. Otherwise, you will only die too early. Poison King Wanzong had already found Zhuowen's figure in the poisonous fog. His right hand formed a claw and slammed towards Zhuowen's glabella, wanting to destroy him with one claw. Zhuowen stood where he was, ignoring the poisonous fog around him. He looked at Poison King Wanzong silently and grinned. Poison King Wanzong, what you said makes sense. When you are not strong enough, don't act tough. As he said that, Zhuowen struck out with a punch. It landed on the Poison King Wanzong's claw, causing it to burst apart. Poison King Wanzong screamed, his pupils constricted and his face was filled with disbelief. How can this lone cultivator be so strong? This guy's aura is so weak. Soon, he felt a suffocating aura surging towards him. Then, he saw Zhuowen rushing towards him. You hid your cultivation before? Poison King Wanzong's pupils constricted. He felt fear and regret. The guy in front of him was a guy who pretended to be weak. He was much stronger than him. Fart. Poison King Wanzong raised his other hand, wanting to block Zhuowen's next attack. Unfortunately, his defense was as weak as tofu and was easily destroyed by Zhuowen. His other hand was also shattered. Die. However, before you die, I advise you to open your eyes. There are some people that you can't afford to offend. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. He punched out and landed on Poison King Wanzong's glabella, penetrating it. Shattered divine energy surged out and entered the depths of Poison King Wanzong's glabella, crushing his spiritual soul and destroying his physical body. Poison King Wanzong didn't even have time to scream before his body and soul were destroyed in front of Zhuowen. However, before Poison King Wanzong was completely destroyed, Zhuowen took off all of Poison King Wanzong's equipment. After completely killing Poison King Wanzong, Zhuowen's entire body was covered in a hazy purple light. His body was changing, and in the end, he turned into an ugly man. It was the appearance of Poison King Wanzong. Zhuowen used the primordial chant to change his appearance. Whether it was appearance or aura, it was flawless. Ordinary people would find it difficult to tell that he was an imposter. After doing all this, Zhuowen put on Poison King Wanzong's black robe and wrapped himself tightly. Then, before the poison mist dissipated, he immediately flew into the distance. It's Poison King Wanzong. That Poison King Wanzong killed that rogue cultivator, and now he's running away with his things. The moment Zhuowen flew out of the poison mist, the surrounding demon clan cultivators immediately recognized him and started discussing. You want to eat it alone? Poison King Wanzong, you don't have such a big appetite. Many experts who were silently watching in the dark could no longer hold it in and chased after him. The poison mist had already dissipated. Other than the mess on the ground, there was nothing left. However, many of the demon clan cultivators present did not doubt that the rogue cultivator was completely dead. Moreover, his body and soul should have been destroyed. After all, this person was facing an expert like Poison King Wanzong. Young Master Shu Yuan, should we chase after him too? In the dark, the Great Guardian frowned slightly. He looked at the young man beside him and asked in a deep voice. Great Guardian, You should return to the Demon Saint Palace. This Poison King Wanzong and the others are just slightly stronger ants to me. I'll take care of them myself. Also, when Donghuang Tai comes out of seclusion, inform me immediately. You have to know that I came down from the upper realm completely because of your Donghuang Tai. Otherwise, how could I come to the demon realm? After Shu Yuan finished speaking, he placed his hands behind his back and took a step forward, instantly disappearing on the spot. The great guardian bowed deeply to Shu Yuan's departing figure, and his eyes revealed a look of dread. Although Shu Yuan's cultivation was only at the peak of the third blight, his identity was not ordinary. Even the master of the Demon Saint Palace, Donghuang Tai, would have to treat this person with caution. Chapter 35-47. You're a thief. Zhuowen's speed was extremely fast, and he quickly left the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's territory. Moreover, he found that many cultivators from the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company followed closely behind him. Of course, after a chase, Zhuowen shook off most of the cultivators. Now, there were only 3 people following him closely. These 3 people were very strong, and they were all third blight powerhouses. The young man Zhuowen saw in the VIP seats where the Great Protector was at the auction house was also among them, and he was the fastest among the 3. Zhuowen always felt that this young man was very unusual. Back then, even the Great Protector, a 4th blight powerhouse, didn't notice his divine sense, but this young man seemed to have noticed it. And for some reason, this young man gave Zhuowen a feeling that he didn't belong to this universe. He seemed a little out of place. This feeling was somewhat similar to Bing Hui, who chased him back then. Bing Hui was from the Ghost Clan in the 100 Territories. Could it be that this person was also from the 100 Territories? In addition to this young man, the other 2 were an old woman and a middle-aged man. These 2 people's cultivation were also at the peak of the third blight. Their demonic chi soared into the sky, and they should be peerless masters from the hidden sects of the demon realm. Zhuowen was only using 50% of his speed. If he increased his speed to the maximum, he could immediately shake off the 3 of them. However, Zhuowen didn't do so. These 3 people were all fat sheep. Since they had delivered themselves to his door, Zhuowen naturally didn't intend to let them go. Moreover, his current identity was the Wanzong Poison King. Everything he did had nothing to do with him. It was all done by the Wanzong Poison King. Since there was already someone to take the blame, Zhuowen naturally wouldn't hide it. Soon, the 4 people, one chasing and one escaping, left the demon divine heavenly city and came to a ruined space in the demon realm. When the 3 saw Zhuowen stop, they all showed a surprised expression. They didn't expect this person to stop running. The 3 quickly spread out and were on guard against each other. They didn't immediately attack. After all, the 3 of them each had their own ulterior motives and were not on the same boat. Naturally, they had to guard against each other. Wanzong Poison King, I didn't expect your movement technique to be so impressive. I've been chasing you for so long, but I still haven't caught up to you. I've underestimated you. However, you also know that although your strength is not bad, facing a great hidden sect like our Divine Peng sect, it's still not enough. I will give you a chance. I don't want anything from you. As long as you give me the profound sky sea settling vine, I will represent the Divine Peng sect to protect your life. Among the 3 individuals, the middle-aged male spoke, declaring how powerful the Divine Peng sect behind them was, that they could completely protect Zhuowen, that his life would not be in danger. Zhuowen pondered inwardly. It looked like this Divine Peng sect was one of the hidden forces of the demon realm, and from this middle-aged man's words, he knew that this Divine Peng sect was not ordinary. At the very least, they had quite a few elites half a step into shattering heaven tier. What is the Divine Peng sect? Our Golden Silk sect is stronger than your Divine Peng sect. Poison King of Wanzong, if you want to find a strong backer, join our Golden Silk sect. However, you have to give me your spirit rings. Only then will I be able to protect your life. The old woman was very arrogant. She looked at the middle-aged man with disdain. Of course, her conditions were even harsher. She directly wanted Zhuowen's spirit rings and all the good things on him. Zhuoan stood calmly and directly ignored the middle-aged man and the old woman. Instead, he looked at the youth and asked indifferently, "What's your background? Do you want to be like these two, rely on the force behind you to protect my life and then want all the things on me?" The middle-aged man and the old woman looked at the youth at the same time with vigilance. The two of them were both from large hidden forces and knew each other very well. However, this young man who had suddenly appeared was a new face to them, and this young man was also a peak third blight cultivator. This shocked them and made them feel dread. "Me?" The youth grinned, but that smile was filled with a sinister meaning. He continued, "I, Shu Yuan, don't like to compromise. The profound sky-sea settling vine on you was originally mine, but you overestimated yourself and stole it from me. In my eyes, you're a thief. And I never tolerate thieves. In my eyes, thieves must die and then their things will be returned to their owners. Of course, if you want a quick death, then there is only one choice, and that is to obediently hand over the profound sky-sea settling vine, kneel before me, and kill yourself as an apology." Shu Yuan's voice was calm but filled with a sinister viciousness. Zhuoan said indifferently, "You mean that even if I give you the profound sky-sea settling vine, you'll still kill me?" Shu Yuan calmly said, "I said that you're a thief. You stole something that should be mine, so you can only apologize with your death. That's your final destination. Haha. I think you're out of your mind. I bought this profound sky-sea settling vine with real money. You didn't get it, which means you don't have the ability. How can you blame it on me?" Zhuowen sneered. Shu Yuan didn't continue to argue with Zhuowen. Instead, he looked at the old woman and the middle-aged man and said, "The two of you can scram. There's only one outcome for interfering in my business, and that is to die a horrible death." As soon as Shu Yuan said this, the old woman and the middle-aged man widened their eyes and looked at Shu Yuan in disbelief. Did water enter this fellow's head? He actually told them to scram and even threatened them in front of them. If this person was a fourth blight powerhouse, they might really scram. But this fellow's cultivation was the same as theirs, only at the peak of the third blight. He actually shouted in front of them. Wasn't this a bit too arrogant? Zhuoan also revealed a surprised expression. This Shu Yuan was indeed a bit arrogant. They were both at the peak of the third blight, but this Shu Yuan was so sure that he could easily kill the old woman and the middle-aged man. "Fellow Daoist, what do you mean by this? You actually want us to scram? What right do you have?" The middle-aged man from the God Peng sect looked at Shu Yuan with an unfriendly gaze. His aura surged, and killing intent surged. The old woman's expression was unsightly as well. Her eyes were filled with terrifying killing intent as she stared coldly at Shu Yuan. Shu Yuan's disdainful expression seriously provoked the old woman and the middle-aged man, and they both wanted Shu Yuan to give them an explanation. "Noisy. You're like two animals, shouting in front of me. It's really annoying," Shu Yuan said coldly. "Pimpy. You're courting death. You actually dared to insult the two of us like this. Today, I'll let you taste the taste of despair." The middle-aged man couldn't restrain himself, and he took a step forward and directly flashed towards Shu Yuan. At the instant the middle-aged man flashed out, his entire figure transformed, and he finally transformed into an enormous golden bird. It was actually a golden-winged roc. On the other hand, the old woman didn't make a move. She just watched coldly. At the same time, she set up a confinement killing formation in the surroundings to trap Zhuoan first. The old woman's level in the formation Dao wasn't bad, and it had actually reached the level of ascension stage. However, this sky-piercing death trap formation was not worth mentioning to Zhuowen. He could break it with a wave of his hand. However, Zhuowen didn't do so. Instead, he silently set up his own half-step ascension stage grand formation inside the confinement killing formation. He had a feeling that Shu Yuan wasn't simple. He didn't dare to underestimate him and needed to treat him seriously. Chapter 35-48. The powerful Shu Yuan stood in place with a sneer on his face. It was as if he didn't care about the old woman and the middle-aged man at all. Whoosh! The golden-winged roc was extremely fast. With a sharp golden light, It arrived in an instant. Its huge claw slashed through the air and grabbed at Xu Yuan's head. This claw was extremely powerful and was like a rising golden sun. It was enough to shatter Xu Yuan's head. Poochie. Xu Yuan suddenly threw out a punch. The fist and claw collided, and then the golden-winged rock's huge golden claw directly exploded. The golden-winged rock let out a miserable shriek. It suddenly flapped its wings and began to fly away from Xu Yuan. "Since you're here, then don't leave." The sneer on Xu Yuan's face became even more intense. He stomped his feet and his entire aura changed. If Xu Yuan was just an ordinary peak third blight cultivator, then he was now a towering mountain that was difficult to climb. He firmly suppressed the golden-winged rock. "Oh shit, is this guy really a peak third blight cultivator? This aura. Isn't it too terrifying?" The golden-winged rock felt Xu Yuan's aura suddenly increase and its heart sank. It suddenly spread its wings and wanted to increase its speed and leave Xu Yuan. Unfortunately, Xu Yuan had already charged out. His speed was simply unimaginable and he instantly landed on the golden-winged rock. Poochie. Xu Yuan's feet suddenly landed on the golden-winged rock's back. A terrifying energy exploded, causing the golden-winged rock to spit out a mouthful of blood. Its back was covered in blood. It was a tragic sight. Then, Xu Yuan grabbed the golden-winged rock's golden wings and ruthlessly tore them off. A terrifying power exploded and the wings were torn apart like paper. "Ah! My wings!" The golden-winged rock screamed and fell. Golden blood scattered across the starry sky as it continued to wail. Xu Yuan's right hand reached into the golden-winged rock's back and actually pulled out its spine. "Ah! Kill me!" The golden-winged rock was about to faint from the pain. He knew that Xu Yuan was far stronger than him and that he would definitely die. Therefore, he began to beg for death so that he could suffer less pain. Xu Yuan sneered and took out a golden millstone. She threw the golden-winged rock into the millstone. Poochie. Poochie. The moment the golden-winged rock was thrown into the millstone began to spin. The golden-winged rock's body was slowly ground into powder by the millstone, turning into golden blood and debris. Finally, it flowed into the jade bucket below the millstone. The golden-winged rock's body was slowly crushed and turned into a bloody pulp. The pain was simply too terrifying. The golden-winged rock screamed again and again. It begged Xu Yuan for mercy so that it could die. Xu Yuan completely ignored the golden-winged rock's pleas for mercy. Instead, she looked at the white snake that the old woman had transformed into. When the old woman saw that the golden-winged rock was easily defeated, she stopped. At that moment, her eyes were filled with horror. She did not expect Xu Yuan to be so powerful. The golden-winged rock was so easily disposed of. "Xu Yuan, I don't care where you came from. It's definitely not wise to offend God Peng sect and Golden Silk sect at the same time." As the old woman spoke, she turned into a white beam and disappeared from the spot with a whoosh. Xu Yuan laughed heartily. Suddenly, she summoned a large golden net. The old woman, who was originally fleeing, was instantly trapped by the net and pulled in front of Xu Yuan. "Do you think you can escape? Get in." Xu Yuan sneered and threw the white snake into the millstone. "Ah, ah, ah." The old woman continued to scream. Her voice was too miserable, and her huge snake body was constantly being ground into bloody dregs. When Zhuo saw the miserable state the middle-aged man and the old woman were in, he frowned slightly. He looked at the golden millstone with a shocked expression. The millstone's aura was actually very similar to the 9 Tribulations sword formation on his body. Although its aura was far less terrifying than the 9 Tribulations sword formation, it was far more powerful than a half-step Heavenbreaker divine artifact. Zhuowen's gaze was serious. He knew that the golden millstone was definitely a Heavenbreaker divine artifact. Although the golden net that Xu Yuan had just taken out was not a Heavenbreaker divine artifact, it was still a half-step Heavenbreaker divine artifact. Otherwise, it would not have been able to trap the old woman so easily. This person is definitely not a cultivator from this galaxy. Zhuowen's gaze became very serious. He knew very well that there was no Heavenbreaker divine artifact in this galaxy. There was probably not even a complete Heaven Breaker cultivation technique. However, this person had a Heaven Breaker divine artifact and could use it skillfully. This could only mean that this person came from the 100 domains outside the realm. Could this person be from the alternate ghost clan? Zhuowen's expression was vigilant. He had a rough understanding of the 100 domains outside the realm, but that was all. Moreover, in the 100 domains outside the realm, he had only made enemies with the alternate ghost clan, so he subconsciously thought that this Xu Yuan in front of him was from the alternate ghost clan. As expected, this is the lower realm's starry sky. Even a half-step Heaven Breaker cultivator is so weak. This blood essence is even incomplete, so it's of limited help to me. Xu Yuan casually poured a cup of blood water from the jade bucket below the millstone, tasted it, and muttered to herself in displeasure. At this moment, the golden-winged Great Peng and the white snake in the millstone were not dead yet. 1/3 of their bodies had already been ground into pieces. At this moment, when they saw that Xu Yuan was actually criticizing their blood essence, they could not help but feel a chill. They had also tried to abandon their bodies and escape with their souls, but it was impossible. This was because there was a mysterious power in this golden millstone that actually firmly imprisoned their bodies and souls. As for them, they could only watch helplessly as their bodies were ground into dust. "You're not a cultivator from this galaxy? Who are you?" The old woman noticed Xu Yuan's words and could not help but ask in fear. "Dead people don't need to know so clearly," Xu Yuan replied indifferently, and then he looked at Zhuowen, who was within the confinement slaughter formation, and said, "Poison King Wanzong, now you know what kind of existence you're facing, right? Kneel down obediently, hand over everything you have, and kill yourself before me. This way, you can suffer less pain. Which clan of the 100 domains outside the realm are you from?" Zhuowen suddenly asked. Xu Yuan, who was originally calm and composed, completely lost his composure. His pupils constricted into needles as he stared fixedly at Zhuowen, and he said in a low voice, "How do you know of the 100 domains outside the realm?" Xu Yuan was indeed shocked. He was very clear that the starry sky he entered had not been born for many eras, and the cultivators here were still ignorant. It was utterly impossible for them to know of the 100 domains outside the realm, let alone a single Heaven Breaker expert that had entered the 100 domains outside the realm. Even the Eastern Emperor Tai and Chief Protector only knew that there was an even larger world like the 100 domains outside the starry sky because he told them. Chapter 3549. Xu Yuan was silent for a moment. He stared coldly at Zhuowen and said, "Who are you?" Xu Yuan didn't believe that a mere itinerant cultivator from the lower realm would know about the 100 territories and even know that there were clans in the 100 territories. "Isn't it important who I am? As long as you don't provoke me, you go your way, and I go mine. Nothing will happen between us," Zhuowen said indifferently. Xu Yuan sneered and said, "Although I'm very curious as to why you know about the 100 territories, an ant like you isn't qualified to make me retreat. Moreover, because you know more, you must die. Of course, I will gladly accept the things on your body." Speaking of this, Xu Yuan waved his right hand, and the golden millstone nearby sped up. The old woman and middle-aged man let out tragic cries before their bodies and souls were destroyed and ground into pieces. Of course, Xu Yuan accepted the spirit rings of the old woman and middle-aged man without batting an eyelid. Xu Yuan put away the golden millstone and took a step forward, instantly arriving in front of Zhuowen. He waved his right hand, and the heaven-piercing trap and kill formation set up by the old woman collapsed inch by inch. Meanwhile, Xu Yuan stepped in front of Zhuowen and threw a punch at Zhuowen's face. Zhuowen didn't dare to be careless. The moment Xu Yuan stepped in front of him, he quickly retreated and activated the half-step heaven-piercing trap and kill formation he had set up. Half-step heaven-piercing trap and kill formation? When did you set it up? Xu Yuan's expression changed slightly. He immediately felt the terrifying killing intent around him. And this power instantly swept towards him, wanting to completely tear him into pieces. Xu Yuan was very strong, but he was too careless. As soon as the killing intent swept over, he was hit. His body exploded into a bloody mist, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression changed greatly. He discovered that this was no ordinary half-step heaven breaching trap and kill formation. Instead, it was a top-tier half-step heaven breaching trap and kill formation. Even a 5th Blight cultivator would find it difficult to escape from such a top-level trap and kill formation. Although Xu Yuan was strong, in a one-on-one fight, there was still a gap between him and a 5th Blight cultivator in the lower realms. In just an instant, Xu Yuan's 4 limbs were crushed by the killing intent of the confinement killing array. However, Xu Yuan's reaction was very fast. The moment his 4 limbs were crushed, he had already taken out the golden millstone. The golden millstone floated above Xu Yuan's head, emitting a dazzling golden light. The killing intent in the surroundings dissipated into nothingness the moment it touched the golden light on the surface of the golden millstone. Xu Yuan hid under the golden millstone. Her breathing was rapid, and her forehead was covered with cold sweat. At this moment, his shattered limbs were slowly recovering. Just now, he had been hit head-on by this top-notch confinement killing formation, and his injuries had already reached a terrifying degree. I was careless. I didn't expect you to be a half-step heaven breaker divine formation master, and you even dared to trick me. In the process of recovering, Xu Yuan looked at Zhuowen, who was not far away from the confinement killing formation, with murderous intent surging in his eyes. He had never suffered such a big loss before, especially after coming to the lower realms. He had a heaven breaker divine artifact, as well as many top-notch divine artifacts, which allowed him to look down on everyone here. Even if a 5th Blight cultivator came, they would most likely suffer under his hands. But now, he actually suffered a loss, and it was at the hands of a mere 2nd Blight cultivator. This was an unbearable humiliation for Xu Yuan. Zhuowen frowned slightly. He looked at the golden millstone above Xu Yuan's head and thought that this thing was indeed a heaven breaker divine artifact. Its power was extraordinary and powerful. He was very clear that if Xu Yuan wasn't recovering, the power of this golden millstone was enough to completely destroy the confinement killing formation he had set up. Bastard! Just you wait, when I recover from my injuries, it will be the time of your death. Xu Yuan sneered. With the golden millstone in hand, he was very confident. Although he couldn't unleash all the power of the golden millstone, even a little bit of its power was enough to be invincible in this starry sky. And this guy who dared to trick him was already a dead man in his eyes. Xu Yuan, you think you're the only one who has a heaven breaker divine artifact? Zhuowen's lips curled into a mocking smile. Then, he activated one of the divine swords of the 9 Tribulations sword formation from his great world. Whoosh! The 9 Tribulations divine sword emitted a bright 9-colored light as it swept out of Zhuowen's great world and appeared in the starry sky. The terrifying sword qi spread through the sky, and the starry sky within hundreds of millions of miles was affected by this terrifying sword qi. It collapsed into countless pieces, becoming a terrifying and dangerous place. Bang! The 9 Tribulations divine sword swept out in an instant and landed on the golden millstone. With a ding sound, the golden millstone was shaken by the 9 Tribulations divine sword. The dazzling golden light on its surface was actually much dimmer than before. Zhuowen's face was pale. The 9 Tribulations sword formation had a total of 9 divine swords. It was already so strenuous for him to activate just one of them. If all 9 swords were to be used together, he would probably be exhausted to death before he could even kill the enemy. However, he had already made great progress. It should be known that when he first obtained the 9 Tribulations sword formation, he was injured just by touching the sword qi. Now that his cultivation was much higher than before, he could barely withstand the terrifying sword qi of the 9 Tribulations divine sword. Bang! 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 In just an instant, the 9 Tribulations divine sword was bombarded dozens of times by the golden millstone. Each time, the surrounding starry sky collapsed and the laws were in chaos. Under the bombardment of the 9 Tribulations divine sword, the golden light around the golden millstone became dimmer. Of course, the 9 Tribulations divine sword also became much weaker. At least, the sword qi wasn't as strong as before. What? You actually also have a heaven breaker divine weapon? The aura of your divine weapon actually surpasses the first level. Could it be a Heavenbreaker divine weapon of the second level? The moment Xu Yuan saw Zhuowen's Nine Tribulations divine sword, it was as if he had seen a ghost and shouted loudly. He indeed felt that it was inconceivable. How could someone in a mere lower realm possess a Heavenbreaker divine weapon? Could it be that this person's identity also came from the 100 outer realms? Suddenly, such a thought appeared in Xu Yuan's mind, and it became more and more firm. Otherwise, how could this person know about the 100 outer realms and have a Heavenbreaker divine weapon? One should know that his golden millstone was only a Heavenbreaker divine weapon of the first level. It was far from a Heavenbreaker divine weapon of the second level. If he continued to fight with this Zhuowen, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. Zhuowen also discovered that the Nine Tribulations divine sword was indeed stronger than the golden millstone. He faintly guessed that the level of this golden millstone was even lower than the Nine Tribulations divine sword. It should be a Heavenbreaker divine weapon of the first level. The Nine Tribulations sword formation was a sword formation formed by 9 Heavenbreaker divine swords. Its power was comparable to a Heavenbreaker divine weapon of the second level. However, he couldn't control the sword formation. The Nine Tribulations divine sword that he was controlling now was actually not a Heavenbreaker divine weapon of the second level. It was also a Heavenbreaker divine weapon of the first level. Chapter 3550. Primal Providence. Fellow cultivator, you must also be from the 100 domains, right? I'm Xu Yuan from Huxley. Seeing as we're from the same place, let's stop here. Xu Yuan hurriedly said. Zhuowen's eyes flashed. It looked like Xu Yuan had also assumed that he was from another clan that had descended from the 100 domains. However, this wasn't surprising. His cultivation level wasn't high, but his strength was freakishly powerful. Coupled with the fact that he possessed a Heavenbreaker divine tool, it was no wonder that Xu Yuan would have such thoughts. Why have you descended to this lower realm? Zhuowen's eyes flashed. He didn't admit or deny it. Instead, he changed the topic. He already felt a sense of danger. Many clans from the 100 domains had already noticed this region of space. First, it was the alternate ghost clan's Bing Hui. Now, it was Huxley's Xu Yuan. When Bing Hui had descended, he had only come for Sakyamuni. Then, why had Xu Yuan come? If true elites from the 100 domains descended in the future, then this region of space would really be finished. There would be no way to reverse the situation. Don't tell me you don't know why I've come down. Your clan probably sent you down to collect the primal providence, right? You have to know that there are fewer and fewer ownerless starry sky fruits in the primordial Hong tree. This starry sky fruit has only been nurtured for a short period of time, so many clans haven't noticed it. Moreover, no Heavenbreaker cultivators have been born in this region of space, so it's a good opportunity to make a move. Since your clan has also discovered this starry sky fruit, our two clans can join forces and share the primal providence of this starry sky fruit. Xu Yuan had already determined that Zhuowen was from one of the clans in the 100 territories, so he didn't hide anything and spoke of his purpose in coming down. Zhuowen frowned. He had no idea what the so-called primal providence was. However, he could see from Xu Yuan's eyes that this primal providence was definitely not ordinary. Moreover, it was also a very precious treasure to the elites of the 100 domains. Huxley is so kind to share the primal providence with us. Zhuowen sneered. He wanted to get more information from Xu Yuan. Xu Yuan shrugged helplessly and said, "It's Huxley's good fortune to be able to discover this primitive starry sky in advance. As you know, Huxley is at the bottom of the 100 territories. We can't afford to offend the other clans. Since you've already discovered it, fellow Daoist, this matter definitely can't be hidden from the upper echelons of your clan. Rather than fighting with you and exposing the secret of this place, I'd rather share the secret with you. This way, everyone will have meat to eat." At this point, Xu Yuan looked at Zhuowen and said in a deep voice, "After talking for so long, I still haven't asked which clan you're from." "I come from the Xuannong clan," Zhuowen replied indifferently. Currently, he only knew of 3 clans in the 100 territories of the Outer Realm. They were the Xuannong clan, the Otherworldly Ghost clan, and the Heartless clan. He had only just learned about the Hushu clan. The reason why he knew about these three clans was naturally because the tool spirit of the heaven-splitting axe had told him that these three clans had joined forces to destroy the Pangu clan. They were the great enemies of the Pangu clan. Now that Xu Yuan asked about it, Zhuowen naturally casually mentioned a clan. I didn't expect fellow Daoist to come from the Xuannong clan. Fortunately, it was just a misunderstanding between us. When Xu Yuan heard about the Xuannong clan, his eyes were full of fear, but at the same time, he was glad. Obviously, the Xuannong clan should be much stronger than Huxley behind Xu Yuan. Otherwise, Xu Yuan would not show such a fearful expression. Fellow Daoist, can you remove the trap and kill array first, and then we can discuss the matter of cooperation? Xu Yuan was still shrouded in the light of the golden millstone. His face was pale as he looked at Zhuowen and forced a smile. I'll remove the trap and kill array. Zhuowen nodded and simply removed the trap and kill array around them. Seeing that the trap and kill array was removed, Xu Yuan breathed a sigh of relief and looked relaxed. Just as he was about to ask Zhuowen to put away the 9 Tribulations Celestial Sword, the 9 Tribulations Celestial Sword suspended in the air suddenly turned into an arc and hit the golden millstone. At the same time, Zhuowen took out another 9 Tribulations Celestial Sword from the macro world and fell on the golden millstone from another direction. The golden millstone was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Now, under the joint attack of the 2 9 Tribulations Celestial Swords, many cracks appeared on its surface. Puff! Xu Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. The golden millstone had already lost its luster and was thrown aside. It was no different from an ordinary millstone. You didn't keep your word. Xu Yuan roared angrily and condemned Zhuowen. However, not long after Xu Yuan finished speaking, a beam of sword light shot over, instantly slicing off his newly reconstructed arms from the shoulders. Zhuowen slowly walked to the side of the severed arms. With a flip of his right hand, he took out a talisman from the palm of one of the arms. He held the talisman in his hand and waved it in front of Xu Yuan. He sneered and said, "It's not that I didn't keep my word, it's you who didn't keep your word. On one hand, you said that you wanted to cooperate with me, and on the other hand, you tried to stall for time to activate the talisman in your hand. I really feel tired of cooperating with a guy like you who only pays lip service." Xu Yuan's 4 limbs were cut off again. He lay on an abandoned meteorite and looked at the talisman in Zhuowen's hand, his face extremely pale. Zhuowen's divine sense was very powerful. When Xu Yuan was secretly playing tricks, Zhuowen's divine sense had already detected it, so he quickly took action. "Fellow Daoist, it was my fault just now. I was possessed. How about this, we continue to cooperate and let bygones be bygones. Moreover, I will definitely give you more primordial luck in the distribution of primordial luck," Xu Yuan hurriedly said. "Forget it. I will find the primordial luck on my own. As for you, I won't cooperate with you." As Zhuowen spoke, his right hand clasped the back of Xu Yuan's head and suddenly pulled out his divine soul. "Fellow Daoist, what are you doing?" Xu Yuan's divine soul was in a panic and constantly shouted. However, Zhuowen was too lazy to pay attention to him. He imprisoned his divine soul and threw it into the great world. When Zhuowen extracted Xu Yuan's divine soul, he found that there was a very powerful imprint in his divine soul. If Xu Yuan's divine soul was destroyed here, he was afraid that the expert behind Huxley would immediately know. Moreover, now wasn't the time to kill Xu Yuan. He still had a lot of questions that he hadn't solved. He could only find out from Xu Yuan. Especially the primordial luck. He always felt that the primordial luck was very important to their universe. If it was stripped away by the experts of the 100 domains, it would definitely be a disaster for the universe. It's time to find a place to transcend the tribulation. Zhuowen's eyes flickered and he instantly left the place. The purpose of this auction was to buy the mysterious sky-sea settling vine. Now that he had obtained it, he naturally couldn't wait to transcend the tribulation and advance to the third blight. Chapter 3551. This place is not bad. Let's choose this place to transcend the tribulation. Zhuowen stopped in a starry sky ruin. This starry sky ruin was located at the northwest edge of the monster realm. It was very barren and full of spatial traps. There was almost no life in this area, let alone cultivators passing by. It just so happened that his tribulation would not be disturbed. Of course, with Zhuowen's terrifying blight tribulation, even if someone disturbed him, they would be courting death. The reason why he chose such a remote place was mainly because he did not want to expose his identity. The old woman of the Golden Silk sect and the middle-aged man of the Divine Peng sect had both died, and Xu Yuan's whereabouts were unknown. These three people were chasing him, so there would definitely be people who suspected that their disappearance must have something to do with him. His current identity was the Wanzhong Poison King. If he was recognized as a fake, it would be troublesome, so he would rather go far away than expose his identity. After entering this starry sky ruin, Zhuowen waved out beast bone array discs and began to set up a powerful killing array and a concealment array around him. He was also just in case. He was afraid that the tribulation would be too loud and would be discovered by nearby cultivators. After setting up the array, Zhuowen sat cross-legged on a suspended meteorite and took out the Xinrue energy liquid. The Xinrue energy liquid was pale gold and contained extremely rich energy. This energy was very compatible with the primordial mantra he cultivated. He knew that if he completely absorbed the Xinrue energy liquid and relied on his comprehension, he could smoothly break through. Taking a deep breath, Zhuowen opened the jade bottle and immediately poured the Xinrue energy liquid on his body. The acupoints all over his body opened crazily and quickly absorbed the surging energy liquid on his body. In the process of absorbing the Xinrue energy liquid, Zhuowen's body emitted blazing rays of light. Even his mouth, nose, eyes, and ears spewed out bright rays of light. At the same time, his aura was constantly skyrocketing. The speed was simply appalling. In just the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Zhuowen had completely absorbed the Xinrue energy liquid. At this moment, Zhuowen's body emitted a crackling noise, as if his bones were dislocated. Rumble. At this moment, Zhuowen's aura had undergone a complete qualitative change. This aura was too terrifying. The starry sky ruins were completely shaken. The countless asteroids and planet fragments floating in the ruins couldn't withstand this terrifying aura and exploded into dust. Zhuowen stood up. His eyes shined brightly as he muttered to himself, "I didn't think it would be so easy to break through to the third blight." He was very excited, and he could feel that the level and quantity of energy in his body had undergone a qualitative change. His strength had skyrocketed to an extremely terrifying level. Boom! Boom! At the same time, a strand of extremely terrifying energy was surging and brewing in the depths of the starry sky above the ruins. Zhuowen took a deep breath, and his gaze fell into the depths of space. He knew that the third blight was about to descend. Rumble. Without any warning, numerous bolts of golden lightning suddenly descended from the depths of the starry sky, and they were dazzling and resplendent. F***CK. Wasn't this the Tianqi divine lightning? The heaven enlightenment divine lightning descended the moment the third blight began. Zhuowen couldn't help but curse when he saw the descending golden lightning. This Tianqi sacred lightning was the final tribulation energy of his second blight tribulation. Back then, he was struck to the brink of death. At that time, Pillar Ray Immortal City Lord Duan Chengyaro was struck to the brink of death by this Tianqi sacred lightning. One had to know that Duan Chengyaro was a true peak third blight powerhouse, and he was struck half dead by the Tianqi divine lightning. Although Zhuowen's strength had increased a lot, the Tianqi divine lightning wasn't enough to seriously injure him. But the problem was that the third blight had just begun, and a terrifying tribulation like the Tianqi divine lightning had already descended. Wouldn't that mean that an even more terrifying tribulation was about to appear? Zhuowen's entire body was shrouded in purple mist. His hands shot out like lightning, and purple pillars of light shot out, shattering the golden Tianqi divine lightning one after another. Of course, the Tianqi divine lightning contained powerful energy. While shattering it, Zhuowen would absorb a portion of the lightning energy into his great world to temper his avatar's body. The Tianqi divine lightning became denser and more powerful. In the beginning, the Tianqi divine lightning was only as thick as a thumb, and there were only a few bolts descending each time. But now, the Tianqi divine lightning descending was as thick as a bucket, and there were dozens of bolts descending at once. Even Zhuowen was starting to find it difficult to resist. However, he was no longer the same as before. His strength had already undergone a qualitative change. Although the Tianqi divine lightning was terrifying, it wasn't enough to put him in a difficult situation. After a few hours, the last Tianqi divine lightning was torn apart by Zhuowen, and the blight in the depths of the starry sky seemed to have weakened a lot. Zhuowen didn't dare to relax. He knew very well that this was just the calm before the storm. He had already passed 2 blights, and he knew that the most terrifying tribulation energy of this blight would descend in a short period of time before the end of the blight. And this calm was just to prepare for an even more terrifying blight. Whoosh! Suddenly, a ghastly white flame gushed out from the depths of the starry sky. Although the flame continued to burn, it emitted a gloomy chill, making people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. This is ultimate Han Yin flame. The moment Zhuowen saw the ghastly white flame, his pupils shrank into needles, and he couldn't help but blurt out. He was all too familiar with the ultimate Han Yin flame. It was also one of the most terrifying types of blight energy, and it could be considered one of the most terrifying energies in the blight. Generally, it would only appear in the 5th blight of a cultivator. The flame had no temperature, and on the contrary, it had an extremely terrifying chill. If an ordinary cultivator touched the ultimate Han Yin flame, they would immediately be wrapped by the flame and frozen into ice chips. Moreover, the chill didn't only target the physical body, but also the soul. When a cultivator was frozen into ice chips, not only did their physical body turn into ice chips, even their divine soul would completely disappear at that moment. It could be said that their body and soul were completely destroyed. Many brilliant cultivators had mostly died in this ultimate Han Yin flame when they were crossing the 5th blight. Zhuowen didn't dare to be careless. This ultimate Han Yin flame was really too terrifying. Even a 4th blight cultivator couldn't resist such a terrifying flame. When the ultimate Han Yin flame descended, Zhuowen also summoned his doppelganger. Then, his original body and doppelganger merged into one, and his aura instantly soared by a large margin. Whoosh! Zhuowen opened his mouth and spat out a black flame. The moment the flame appeared, it turned into a huge black firebird that soared into the sky and swept towards the ultimate Han Yin flame. This was the undying witch flame. Back then, it was absorbed by the Zhurongjiyu in the land of inheritance of the phoenix, and its power was extraordinary. But what made Zhuowen's face turn gloomy was that the moment the undying witch flame touched the ultimate Han Yin flame, it was completely frozen into an ice sculpture and then shattered into countless ice chips. Chapter 3552. Advancing to the 3rd decay so cold. The moment the ultimate Yin flame descended, Zhuowen's entire body trembled. This chill was not only on his body, but also in the depths of his soul. He could feel an unbearable chill. The coldness was far too terrifying, causing Zhuowen's body and soul to lose consciousness in an instant. It was as if he had really turned into a lifeless ice sculpture. Damn it! Profound sky-sea settling vine, come out! Zhuowen roared, and finally took out the profound sky-sea settling vine. He had long prepared this item. At the beginning, he could barely resist the heaven-enlightening divine lightning, so he did not use it. But now, this ultimate Han Yin flames was indeed too terrifying. Zhuowen suspected that if he still didn't use the dark sky-sea calming vine, then he might really perish within these terrifying flames. The moment the profound sky-sea settling vine was taken out, the originally palm-sized vine rapidly grew. In a few breaths, the profound sky-sea settling vine had grown into a huge vine that almost reached the heavens and the earth. Moreover, this vine was very unusual. At its top, there were countless clouds and mist lingering, as if there was no end, and at its root, there was a vast ocean that stretched as far as the eye could see. The moment the profound sky-sea settling vine grew, it actually created such a huge and terrifying domain that completely separated Zhuowen from the ultimate Yin flame. Zhuoan stood on an emerald leaf in the middle of the vine, looking at the countless white flames outside the domain with a look of horror in his eyes. Zhuoan took a deep breath and muttered with a lingering fear in his heart, "This ultimate Hanyin flame is worthy of being a flame that only appears during the fifth decay. It's actually so terrifying. Earlier, I felt a strong danger of death. If I didn't have this dark sky sea calming vine, I'm afraid I would have been doomed." But Zhuoan did not relax because of this. He could clearly feel that the domain formed by the profound sky sea settling vine was trembling violently, as if it would collapse and become unstable at any time. There are too many ultimate yin flames. The domain formed by the profound sky sea settling vine can't hold on for too long. I have to reduce the pressure on the profound sky sea settling vine. Zhuoan was very clear that he had to share a portion of the profound sky sea calming vine's ultimate Hanyin flame. Otherwise, the profound sky sea calming vine would be destroyed before the decay tribulation was over. At that time, he would definitely be in for a tragedy. Thinking of this, Zhuoan came to the boundary of the domain and began to guide a portion of the ultimate Hanyin flame in, while he used his body to resist it. The ultimate Hanyin flame was indeed terrifying, but most of the flames were absorbed by the profound sky sea settling vine. Zhuoan could still barely resist a small portion of the ultimate Hanyin flame. A. The gold ring can actually absorb the ultimate Hanyin fire. Just as Zhuoan was struggling to resist the ultimate Hanyin fire, he discovered that the golden ring on his hand was actually crazily absorbing the ultimate Hanyin fire, and sucking it all into the ring. This golden ring was worn by the owner of the golden coffin. This ring was of a much higher grade than a spirit ring, and the space inside was incomparably stable, almost catching up to the starry sky he was in. However, Zhuoan was used to putting things in the outside world. Although this golden ring was much better than a spirit ring, Zhuoan basically didn't use it much. Usually, he would just wear it on his hand as a kind of decoration. However, he didn't expect that this golden ring could actually absorb the ultimate Hanyin fire, this kind of powerful decay tribulation energy. Not long after, the ultimate Hanyin fire that entered the domain through the gap at the boundary of the domain was completely absorbed by the golden ring. And Zhuoan's divine sense fell into the ring, and discovered that the ultimate Hanyin fire was running around inside the ring's space. However, the golden ring's space was very stable, and the ultimate Hanyin fire couldn't break through its space at all. It could only run around inside the ring's space like a headless fly. This item of a heaven-breaking realm expert is indeed not ordinary. Since this ring can absorb the ultimate Hanyin fire, then I'll absorb all the ultimate Hanyin fire from the outside world. Zhuoan's eyes lit up. This ultimate Hanyin fire was so powerful, and since he could collect it, why not use it as one of his trump cards? With this ultimate Hanyin fire, Zhuoan didn't even need to make a move and could heavily injure fourth blight cultivators, or even kill them. Thinking of this, Zhuoan directly took off the golden ring and threw it out through the gap in the profound sky sea settling vine domain. Zhuoan could clearly see that when the golden ring rushed into the ultimate Hanyin fire, it began to wantonly absorb the flames. As time passed, the ultimate Hanyin fire in the outside world became less and less, and the profound sky sea settling vine domain was about to reach its limit, showing signs of breaking. When the last trace of the ultimate Hanyin fire completely disappeared into the golden ring, the profound sky sea settling vine also withered, and the domain it formed was also destroyed. Zhuoan put away the golden ring, and his divine sense had already seen the surging and terrifying white flames in the ring's space. Phew! What an unexpected gain! Zhuoan's face was flushed red, and he was very excited. At this moment, the starry sky ruins where Zhuoan was had long become a dangerous place with chaotic spacetime. The killing array and concealment array that Zhuoan had set up around him had long been blasted into powder by the blight tribulation. Fortunately, this place was very remote, so Zhuoan's blight tribulation caused such a big commotion, but it didn't attract the attention of other cultivators. Zhuoan took out the spacetime roulette, handed the control to Xiao He, and instructed him to go to the Demon Saint Palace in the Demon Saint Heavenly City. He continued to cultivate in seclusion. He still had the soul cultivating pot and little immortal monarch cauldron that he had bought from the auction. Especially the little immortal monarch cauldron, although it looked very ordinary and even a little broken. But Zhuoan knew that there was definitely a secret in this little immortal monarch cauldron, it was just that he hadn't uncovered it yet. Moreover, he had a premonition that once he uncovered the secret of the little immortal monarch cauldron, his alchemy Dao and array Dao would very likely undergo a transformation. When Zhuoan returned to the Demon Saint Heavenly City, the Demon Saint Heavenly City was in an uproar. Because on this day, two great hidden forces experts suddenly descended on the Demon Saint Heavenly City. These two great hidden forces were respectively the Golden Silk Sect and the Divine Peng Sect. What made everyone even more shocked was that the moment these two great forces descended on the Demon Saint Heavenly City, they completely ignored the rules set by the Demon Saint Palace and brazenly attacked one of the four great trading companies, the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, completely annihilating the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. And the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's ancestor, Bailey Jingluan, even died tragically in the hands of a half-step heaven-breaking realm expert from the Golden Silk Sect. The Spirit Phoenix Trading Company was one of the four great trading companies after all, and had considerable influence in the demon territory. Now that it was annihilated in front of everyone's eyes, it really caused a huge commotion. And what made many demon race cultivators in the Demon Saint Heavenly City even more puzzled was that the Demon Saint Palace didn't say a word from beginning to end, and didn't even send anyone to investigate the reason for the annihilation of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Even the Demon Saint Heavenly City's enforcers seemed to have suddenly disappeared, and no one came out to check on the experts from the Golden Silk Sect and the Divine Peng Sect. In an instant, the entire Demon Saint Heavenly City was in a state of panic, and the cultivators from the Golden Silk Sect and the Divine Peng Sect were even more unbridled and arrogant in the Demon Saint Heavenly City. Chapter 3553. The effect of the soul-cultivating pot inside the Demon Saint Palace. The five protectors were gathered together. The head protector was sitting at the head with a frown and a worried expression. Head protector. The Gold Silk Sect and God Peng Sect are too arrogant. They actually attacked in the Demon Saint Sky City and destroyed the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company without any reason. They don't put our Demon Saint Palace in their eyes at all. The God Horn Protector couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up and cupped his hands at the head protector as he spoke angrily. The other protectors also showed deep understanding. After all, the Demon Saint Sky City was the territory of the Demon Saint Palace. How could they allow other forces to be so arrogant? The head protector gestured for the God Horn Protector to sit down. He said in a deep voice, "You probably don't know the background of the Gold Silk Sect and God Peng Sect, right?" "Of course we know. The Gold Silk Sect and God Peng Sect are the two largest hidden forces in the demon realm. It's said that they have third blight cultivators behind them. Although these two forces are indeed stronger than normal forces, the gap between them and our Demon Saint Palace is not small. What does our Demon Saint Palace have to fear?" The God Horn Protector said in a deep voice. He was very dissatisfied with the head protector telling the Demon Saint Palace to not make a move. Now his dissatisfaction was showing on his face. The head protector sneered, "God Horn, what you know is only outdated news. According to what I know, the two ancestors of the Gold Silk Sect and God Peng Sect have both successfully broken through to the fourth blight. The two fourth blight cultivators even arrived at the Demon Saint Sky City together. Now that Lord Demon Saint is in closed-door cultivation and I'm the only fourth blight cultivator in the Demon Saint Palace. As long as our Demon Saint Palace makes a move, the two ancestors of the Gold Silk Sect and God Peng Sect will have enough reason to fight back. At that time, I'll be restrained and the entire Demon Saint Palace will be in chaos. So right now, our Demon Saint Palace can only stay put. Moreover, the Gold Silk Sect and God Peng Sect lost two peak third blight cultivators. To them, this is a heavy loss. The Spirit Phoenix Trading Company being destroyed can only be blamed on them for not knowing how to be a person. They actually sold something to a rogue cultivator and lost their lives for nothing. As soon as the Great Protector said that, the other four protectors were shocked. They also didn't expect the two ancestors of the Gold Silk Sect and God Peng Sect to break through to the fourth blight. This wasn't a good thing for the Demon Saint Palace. Divine Horn Protector frowned and continued, Great Protector, the sacred demon city has always been led by our sacred demon palace. Now that the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company has been annihilated and our sacred demon palace hasn't done anything, I'm afraid that the cultivators in the sacred demon city will be disappointed in our sacred demon palace and cause us to lose our credibility. Furthermore, our sacred demon palace has a 9-story pagoda. That Golden Silk sect and Divine Peng sect wouldn't dare to do anything to us. The Great Guardian waved his hand and immediately interrupted the God Horn Guardian. God Horn. As for the cultivators of Demon Saint Palace, they are insignificant. There is no need to care about their feelings. The head protector's expression was firm. Seeing his expression, God Horn knew that his persuasion was useless. The head protector wouldn't listen. Oh right. God Horn, didn't you just invite a guest protector into Demon Saint Palace? He just entered Demon Saint Palace and hasn't done anything for Demon Saint Palace. How about this? Summon him over. I plan to let him investigate the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, the head protector suddenly said. God Horn's expression changed. He knew that after the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company was destroyed, the Gold Silk sect and God Peng sect experts were temporarily stationed there. The head protector wanted Zhuoan to investigate the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Wasn't this sending him to his death? Head protector, Protector Zhuo is currently in seclusion. It's not good for us to disturb him now. Let's talk about it after he comes out. God Horn said solemnly. He went into seclusion the moment he entered Demon Saint Palace. He clearly wants to reap benefits from Demon Saint Palace and doesn't want to do anything for us. Inform him that if he doesn't come out of seclusion immediately, then get out of Demon Saint Palace. What right does such a person have to be a guest protector of Demon Saint Palace? The head protector said coldly. God Horn's expression was ugly. He was the one who invited Zhuoan in. Now that the head protector spoke ill of Zhuoan in front of him, it was a slap to his face. God Horn knew why the head protector was so against Zhuoan. It was mainly because he was the one who invited Zhuoan in. God Horn's talent was the strongest among the 5 protectors. His cultivation progress was also the fastest. He had even received the favor and praise of Demon Saint Donghuang Tai. The head protector had always been at odds with him. The main reason was that God Horn was the one who could affect his position the most. Therefore, he was always against God Horn. Before Demon Saint went into seclusion, Demon Saint Palace was under the management of Demon Saint Palace. The head protector didn't dare to openly oppose God Horn. However, after Demon Saint went into seclusion, most of Demon Saint Palace's affairs were under the control of the head protector. The head protector's actions against God Horn were becoming more and more excessive. Head protector. Protector Zhuo is indeed in seclusion and has reached a critical moment. Give him 7 more days. He will come out of seclusion in 7 days. When he comes out, I will personally bring him here. God Horn stared at the head protector and said in a deep voice. He didn't have the slightest intention of evading. God Horn knew very well that Zhuoan wasn't in Demon Saint Palace right now. He had gone to the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company to participate in the auction. Although he didn't know the specifics of Zhuoan's current situation, he knew that Zhuoan was definitely not in Demon Saint Palace. If he summoned Zhuoan now, it would be a slap to his face. Therefore, he had to stall for time. The head protector looked deeply at God Horn and said lightly, well, then I will give you face and give him 7 days. If he doesn't come out of seclusion in 7 days, then don't blame me for forcing him out. Also, when he comes out of seclusion, he must immediately go to the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company to investigate. There can be no delay. God Horn's face was gloomy, but he could only nod in agreement. He knew very well that if he continued to exonerate Zhuoan, the head protector would immediately accuse him of a groundless crime. When that time came, he would really be speechless. Zhuoan naturally didn't know what had happened in Demon Saint Palace. At this moment, he was in the temporary cave residence of the Spacetime Roulette, studying the small bronze cauldron. Above Zhuoan's head floated the soul-cultivating pot. In the soul-cultivating pot, mysterious power filled the air and poured into Zhuoan's glabella. It made Zhuowen's divine soul feel cool and comfortable. It had to be said that the effect of the soul-cultivating pot was really good. It was very beneficial for the recovery and growth of his divine soul. Zhuowen's divine soul was originally very powerful. With the effect of the soul-cultivating pot, Zhuowen didn't feel as painful as before when he cultivated the divine soul sword essence. Moreover, the divine soul sword essence that Zhuowen had condensed at this moment was extremely terrifying. Even if his divine soul was extremely powerful, it could only bear 3 divine soul sword essences at most. If he added more divine soul sword essences, his divine soul wouldn't be able to bear it, and there might be bad consequences. Chapter 3554. Return. Back at the auction, he'd sensed a very obscure restriction in the Immortal Lord Cauldron. He'd found it long ago. However, as he carefully examined the cauldron, he discovered that there was more than one obscure restriction in the young Immortal Lord Cauldron. He discovered a total of 9 obscure restrictions. They're all half-step heaven breaker restrictions, and they're all top-notch. Zhuowen's eyes widened in shock. He also discovered that the 9 restrictions complemented each other. 9 top-notch half-step heaven breaker restrictions complemented each other to form a super powerful restriction. It was so powerful that it was almost at the heaven breaker level. Zhuowen's eyes were solemn. He knew that at his current level, it would take him a lot of effort to decipher the restrictions in the Immortal Lord Cauldron. At the same time, he was overjoyed. He knew that such a powerful restriction in the Immortal Lord Cauldron could only mean that the pill formation Immortal Lord's most important secret was hidden inside. Otherwise, the pill formation Immortal Lord wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to set up such a terrifying restriction in the Immortal Lord Cauldron. Next, Zhuowen buried himself in deciphering the restrictions in the Immortal Lord Cauldron. Several days later, Zhuowen returned to the outskirts of the Divine Monster City. He'd only managed to decipher a small portion of the restrictions in the small bronze cauldron. Zhuowen smiled wryly. He knew that it would take him a lot of time to completely decipher the restrictions in the small bronze cauldron. Suddenly, a stream of light flew past his eyes, and he saw a familiar figure in the stream of light. Bailey Choling? Zhuowen saw that the streak of light was a flying divine artifact, and inside it was Bailey Choling of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Bailey Choling looked very flustered. As she flew, she glanced back from time to time and didn't notice Zhuowen at all. Zhuowen also noticed that several streaks of light were closing in on Bailey Choling. Clearly, they were pursuing Bailey Choling. Zhuowen was surprised. Bailey Choling was the little princess of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, and was very famous in the Divine Monster City. Who else dared to pursue Bailey Choling? Moreover, they weren't far from the Divine Monster City. These people were too bold, completely ignoring the rules of the Divine Monster City and the influence of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. The two parties, one fleeing while the other, quickly Bailey Choling translation, Zhuowen. Zhuowen stood for a moment in thought, then he Choling, and Bailey Choling. He always felt that it was strange. The Spirit Phoenix Trading Company was considered a big power in the Demon Divine Heavenly City. The cultivators were cultivators chasing Bailey Choling translation is Creation Lord Realm Lord Bailey Choling Lord. Bailey Choling translation, Bailey Choling she her translation she translation however, Bailey Choling clearly didn't do so. Instead, she fled in the direction of Demon Divine Heavenly City. Zhuowen realized that something might have happened to the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Although he did not have a good impression of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, Bailey Choling had given him a high-grade Heavenly Tao Origin crystal load. Even though it was with a purpose, he still owed her a favor. Now that he saw Bailey Choling in trouble, he naturally couldn't sit idly by. Zhuowen silently followed behind and easily dealt with the cultivators who were pursuing Bailey Choling. At the same time, he discovered from the items on these cultivators that they weren't from Demon Divine Sky City but disciples of Golden Silk God Sect. Golden Silk Sect actually came to Demon Sacred Sky City. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he recalled the old woman that was annihilated by Shu Yuan. He remembered that the sect behind the old woman was the Golden Silk sect. It was said to be one of the major sects among the reclusive powers. As for the Golden Winged Rock, the Divine Peng sect, it was also said to be very terrifying. Even though its foundation wasn't comparable to the Golden Silk sect, it was still a first-rate sect. Now that the Golden Silk sect had come to Demon Sacred Sky City, it probably had something to do with the old woman's death. Zhuoan also knew that since the Golden Silk sect was here, the Divine Peng sect must be here too. Coupled with Bailey Qiuling's eagerness to escape from Demon Sacred Sky City, something must have happened to the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Zhuoan didn't chase after Bailey Qiuling. He had only met her twice and didn't have much of a relationship with her. This time, he only acted to return the favor. Therefore, after dealing with these cultivators, he returned to Demon Sacred Sky City. Hey! Why did the Golden Silk sect's experts suddenly disappear? Bailey Qiuling, who was running for her life, sensed that something was wrong. Her spiritual will didn't detect any traces of anyone behind her. Those cultivators were clearly chasing after her, but now they seemed to have disappeared. Thinking of this, Bailey Qiuling stopped and carefully retraced her original path. Soon, she stopped not far away. She found traces of a battle here. She revealed a look of understanding, knowing that someone must have helped her get rid of the people chasing after her. Thinking of this, Bailey Qiuling bowed to the starry sky behind her. Then, her beautiful eyes revealed a determined look and she disappeared. She decided to leave Demon Sacred Sky City and cultivate diligently. Once she was successful in her cultivation, she would return to Demon Sacred Sky City and seek revenge from the Golden Silk sect and Divine Peng sect. After Zhuoan returned to Demon Sacred Sky City, he learned that the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company had been annihilated by the Golden Silk sect and Divine Peng sect's experts. Zhuoan wasn't too surprised. When he found out that Bailey Qiuling was being hunted, he already had his suspicions. However, the reality was worse than he expected. The Spirit Phoenix Trading Company had been completely annihilated without a single survivor. Although he barged into the Thunderbolt Trading Company and even killed their ancestor, Lei Longyin, he was on the side of reason. However, he was on the side of reason. After all, it was Lei Longyin who attacked first, and he didn't destroy the Thunderbolt Trading Company. He only killed Lei Longyin and Lei Lingyun, so the Demon Saint Palace didn't pursue the matter. However, the nature of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's situation this time was far worse than Zhuowen's. This time, the entire trading company had been uprooted, completely wiped out. Furthermore, it had been for no reason at all, without distinguishing between right and wrong. However, no one from the Demon Saint Palace had come out to uphold justice. For a time, the entire Demon Sacred Sky City was filled with complaints. Clearly, many cultivators were dissatisfied with the Demon Sacred Palace's silence. Even Zhuoan frowned. When he barged into the Thunderbolt Trading Company, the Demon Sacred Palace's Divine Horn Protector at least came out to give an explanation. Now that the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company was so vile, and had been directly destroyed in the Demon Divine Heavenly City, the Demon Divine Palace had actually become mute. This was truly inexcusable. However, this was the Demon Sacred Palace's matter, so Zhuoan didn't think too much about it. After he returned to the Demon Sacred Palace's cave dwelling in District D, someone immediately came to visit him. Zhuowen opened the cave mansion's defensive array and found that it was God Horn who had come personally. He also found that God Horn's expression was a bit unnatural. This made Zhuowen squint his eyes, and he had a bad premonition. Chapter 3555. Godhorn Guardian, what do you mean? Zhuowen asked in surprise. Although the residence assigned to him by the head guardian was only in Area D, it was considered a very bad place. However, he was still a guest guardian of the Demon Saint Palace in name. Who would dare to destroy his cave residence in the Demon Saint Palace? The Divine Horn Guardian smiled bitterly and told him what the Great Guardian had said a few days ago in the Demon Saint Palace, as well as what had happened. Of course, he also told Zhuowen in detail about what happened in the Demon Saint Sky City recently. The head guardian wants to destroy my cave residence. Zhuoan narrowed his eyes and felt very unhappy. From the moment he entered the Demon Saint Palace, the Great Protector had been targeting him. Now, he even threatened to tear down his cave. Wasn't he looking down on him a little too much? Godhorn Guardian, the Spirit Phoenix trading firm, was destroyed by the Golden Silk Sect and God Peng Sect. Why didn't the Demon Saint Palace say anything? Furthermore, the Golden Silk Sect and God Peng Sect aren't from the Demon Saint Sky City. They are external forces. They appeared in the Demon Saint Sky City so arrogantly, and your Demon Saint Palace doesn't care? Zhuoan asked in a deep voice. The Godhorn Guardian had already informed him that the head guardian wanted him to investigate the incident in the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm. He didn't feel that there was anything wrong with this. However, he felt that it was strange that the Demon Saint Palace seemed to be afraid of the Golden Silk Sect and God Peng Sect. As the number one force in the Demon Saint realm, this cowardice made Zhuoan a little suspicious. The Godhorn Guardian sighed. If it was in the past, the Demon Saint Palace wouldn't have let them off easily if the Golden Silk Sect and God Peng Sect dared to be so arrogant. But now, the Golden Silk Sect and God Peng Sect are different from the past. The ancestors of the two forces broke through some time ago and became Fourth Blight expert. And this time, the ancestors of the two forces personally came to the Demon Saint Sky City. Speaking of this, the Godhorn Guardian's expression was very unnatural and he smiled awkwardly. Zhuoan finally realized that something was wrong. No wonder the head guardian wanted him to investigate the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm. This wasn't a simple investigation at all. It was simply a suicide mission. Right now, the experts of the Golden Silk Sect and God Peng Sect were stationed above the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. If a mere Demon Saint Palace protector like him were to head over to investigate, he would definitely clash with the experts of the two factions. At that time, his life and death would be unpredictable. Zhuoan's gaze turned cold. Did this great protector want him dead? Zhuoan looked at the Divine Horn Guardian and asked calmly, "Divine Horn Guardian, I have no enmity with the Great Guardian. We have never even met before. However, he has been targeting me since the beginning. Can you give me a reasonable explanation?" The Divine Horn Guardian's expression changed slightly. Finally, he sighed and said, "Guardian Zhuo, this is all my fault. I didn't tell you clearly at the beginning. Actually, it's like this. My rise in the Demon Saint Palace was too short, and I was once favored by the Demon Saint. The Great Protector's jealousy is also very strong, so he has always rejected me, and I was the one who recommended you into the Demon Saint Palace, so." Zhuoan nodded. He already understood. It seemed like he was completely undeserving of this calamity. "Guardian Zhuo, that day in the conference hall, I already tried my best to protect you. However, the Demon Saint Palace is completely under the control of the Great Protector. Therefore, even if I tried to argue with him, I still couldn't persuade the Great Protector," the Divine Horn Guardian said with some shame. Zhuoan secretly shook his head. He knew very well that even if the Great Protector was really targeting the Divine Horn Guardian, the latter was still the second Great Protector of the 5 Great Protectors. The Demon Saint Palace's power was definitely not weak. If the Divine Horn Guardian had really argued for him, he would not have been sent to the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company to die. However, he did not care about this. He knew very well that the Divine Horn Guardian would have to pay a huge price to protect him. His relationship with the Divine Horn Guardian was not that deep. The Divine Horn Guardian would definitely not pay such a huge price to protect him. After all, the gains did not make up for the losses. Moreover, he had just broken through and his strength had undergone a qualitative transformation. He really wanted to test how strong his current strength was. The Golden Silk Sect and God Peng Sect could be his trial stones. No worries. That Great Protector only sent me to the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company to investigate. As long as I don't alarm the people of the Golden Silk Sect and God Peng Sect, I think I shouldn't be in any danger," Zhuoan said with a faint smile. The Divine Horn Guardian laughed and said, "What Protector Zhuo said is extremely right. With Protector Zhuo's skills, as long as you are careful, even if the 2 patriarchs were to take action, They might not be able to take you down. Zhuoan did not pay any attention to the Divine Horn Guardian's compliments. Instead, he continued, Divine Horn Guardian, is there still no news of the Demon Saint? Did she send you a message saying when she will be back? Right now, Zhuoan was most concerned about Mu Chen Shui. He was 80% sure that the Holy Maiden of the Demon region was Mu Chen Shui. As long as Mu Chenshui returned, he would immediately take her away and leave the Demon Saint Palace. Should be soon. Because Lord Demon Saint is about to come out of seclusion. The saint will definitely return before Lord Demon Saint comes out of seclusion, the Divine Horn Guardian said in a deep voice. Oh, right. Protector Zhuo, you should be going out to participate in the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's auction this time, right? I heard that the auction's finale item, the profound sky sea settling vine, was bid away by a mysterious itinerant cultivator. It's just that itinerant cultivator's luck was really bad. It was said that he was killed by the Wanzhong Poison King. Furthermore, the item was also snatched away by the Wanzhong Poison King. At that time, you should be at the auction venue. Is there such a thing? Furthermore, it was said that those two powerhouses from the Gold Silk Divine Sect and the Divine Peng Sect ultimately perish. Therefore, it led to the Gold Silk Divine Sect and the Divine Peng Sect's powerhouses joining forces to come to the Demon Saint Heavenly City. Zhuowen's gaze flickered and he said with a sigh, there is indeed such a thing. Although that itinerant cultivator's strength was nothing much, he was rich and overbearing. In the end, he bid for the profound sky sea settling vine with a price of over 100 million. None of the major powers in the entire VIP seating area could contend with him. It's just that this person showed off a little too much and did not know how to restrain himself. In the end, he was intercepted and killed by the Wanzhong Poison King in front of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. He died and his Dao dissipated. The item was also snatched away, while the Wanzhong Poison King even fled without a trace. After that, many powerhouses chased after the Wanzhong Poison King. I'm also not very clear about the specific outcome. The Divine Horn Guardian nodded. He did not suspect anything. He really never suspected that Zhuoan was the murderer of the old woman and the middle-aged man. In his opinion, the old woman and middle-aged man from the Gold Silk Divine Sect and the Divine Peng Sect had the same cultivation as him. They were both at the peak of the third blight. Their strength was very terrifying. And in his opinion, although Zhuoan was also a third blight powerhouse, he was at most at the early or middle stage of the third blight. How could such a cultivation be able to kill two peak third blight powerhouses? Therefore, the Divine Horn Guardian subconsciously believed that the person who killed the old woman and the middle-aged man from the Gold Silk Divine Sect must be a fourth blight powerhouse. Although there were rumors that the Wanzhong Poison King killed the old woman and the middle-aged man, the Divine Horn Guardian did not believe it. He believed that there must be some hidden old monster who could not help but snatch it. Chapter 3556. Imperial Edict. Protector Zhuo is finally out of seclusion. You really made me wait for a long time. Suddenly, a sarcastic voice came and attracted the attention of Zhuoan and the Godhorn Protector. Zhuoan looked at the red-faced old man walking over and sneered in his heart. This red-faced old man was none other than the Great Protector of the Demon Saint Palace. Great Protector. Protector Zhuo just came out of seclusion. Can you delay the mission you arranged for him for a few days so that he can prepare? The Godhorn Protector said pretentiously. The Great Protector sneered. Did I not give him enough time? No need to talk nonsense. Immediately set off to investigate the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company ruins. Also, bring the Imperial Edict. As he spoke, the Great Protector took out a golden scroll and threw it to Zhuoan. Imperial Edict? Zhuoan asked in surprise. Yes. Gold Silk Sect and God Peng Sect suddenly destroyed the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company without even notifying us. This is looking down on our Demon Saint Palace. Bring this Imperial Edict to the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company ruins and announce that these two factions will withdraw from Demon Saint Sky City. As for their matter, wait until the Demon Saint comes out of seclusion and we'll naturally deal with it. the Great Protector said indifferently. Zhuowen's face darkened. This Great Protector was blatantly trying to kill him. If he brought this imperial edict to the Gold Silk Sect and God Peng Sect, he would definitely have a conflict with them. At that time, a fight would be unavoidable. Gold Silk Sect and God Peng Sect both had Fourth Blight powerhouses behind them. This was no different from courting death. Although Zhuowen was not afraid of Fourth Blight powerhouses, he was still unhappy that he was being tricked like this. Great Protector, didn't you say that you only wanted Protector Zhuo to investigate the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company ruins? Why are you doing this now? The God Horn Protector's face did not look too good. He could see that the Great Protector was planning to send Zhuowen to his death. What? This is normal procedure. The main thing is that the Gold Silk Sect and God Peng Sect have gone too far. It is only natural for us to issue a decree from our Demon Saint Palace. Guardian Shen Jiao, do you have any other opinions? The Great Guardian sneered. The Divine Horn Protector fell silent. He glanced at Zhuowen, his eyes full of shame. All right, I'll accept this imperial edict. Now, I'll make a trip to the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. What everyone did not expect was that Zhuowen agreed very straightforwardly. Even the Great Guardian was stunned. His original plan was to use this move to infuriate Zhuowen, and then arrest Zhuowen for rebelling against his superiors. After all, this Zhuowen was not on his side. He was on the side of the Divine Horn Protector. Therefore, if he could get rid of this person, he would do his best to do so. After all, he was in power now. He had to weaken the forces around the Divine Horn Guardian by any means. When the Demon Saint came out of seclusion, there would not be many opportunities like this. He had to seize the opportunity. Moreover, recently, the Great Guardian's mood was somewhat irritable. Xu Yuan had not returned, and she did not even reply to the messages he sent out. This made the Great Guardian somewhat worried. In fact, he was very clear that the two peak Third Blight experts from the Golden Silk Sect and the Divine Peng Sect were definitely killed by Xu Yuan. However, at the same time, Xu Yuan had also disappeared. In the beginning, he was still able to maintain his calm. However, as time passed, he felt that something was wrong and his mood became very bad. In addition, he did not like the Divine Horn Protector. However, he could not scold the Divine Horn Protector in front of him. Therefore, he naturally vented his anger on Zhuowen. However, he didn't expect Zhuowen to agree so readily. This caused the anger that had accumulated in his heart to be tightly suppressed, and he had nowhere to vent it. Divine Horn Protector, I'll take my leave first. Wait for me to come back and chat with you. Zhuowen picked up the Imperial Edict, cupped his hands at the Divine Horn Protector, and left the Demon Saint Palace. The Divine Horn Protector looked at Zhuowen's departing figure and gently shook his head. He knew that Zhuowen would most likely not be able to return. The Great Guardian was very angry at Zhuowen's disregard. He coldly said to the subordinate beside him, "Send someone to monitor him. If he dares to run away, immediately inform me." The subordinate nodded and also left the Demon Saint Palace. The Divine Horn Protector turned a blind eye to this matter. After bidding farewell to the Great Guardian, he left the place. This Divine Horn Protector is really good at enduring. I've already done this much, but he still remains indifferent. The Great Guardian coldly looked at the Divine Horn Protector's departing figure and sneered to himself. After Zhuowen left the Demon Saint Palace, he immediately discovered that someone was following him from afar. Without guessing, he knew that it was definitely someone sent by the Great Guardian. He was afraid that he would run away at the last minute, so he was here to monitor him. Zhuowen did not pay much attention to the person following him. Instead, he went straight to the Spirit Phoenix trading firm. When Zhuowen arrived at the Spirit Phoenix trading firm, his brows slightly furrowed. The once bustling and huge Spirit Phoenix trading firm had been razed to the ground. Not even the ruins remained. On the flat ground, there were temporary cave dwellings. Clearly, these cave dwellings were built by the experts of the Golden Silk Sect and the Divine Peng Sect. Moreover, these cave dwellings were clearly divided into two camps. Clearly, The Golden Silk Sect and the Divine Peng Sect were not as harmonious as imagined. Zhuowen stopped a few kilometers away from the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm. He did not immediately approach. Instead, he took out the Beast Bone Array disc and began to set up a trap array around the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm. Zhuowen's current array Dao level was extremely impressive. He had already reached the peak of the half-step Heaven Breaker realm. The trap array he set up was extremely difficult to deal with. Even an ordinary fifth blight expert would find it difficult to break free from it. However, if he wanted to set up a trap array that even a fifth blight expert could not break free from, the materials required were too terrifying. Moreover, the time required to set it up was also very long. Therefore, the trap array Zhuowen was setting up was only a second-grade trap array. This way, the materials required were not much and the time required was not long. With the power of this trap array, it was more than enough to trap an early fourth blight expert. He did this just in case. After all, if he really had a conflict with the Golden Silk Sect and the Divine Peng Sect, a battle would be unavoidable. The commotion caused by a battle between half-step Heaven Breaker realm experts was too great. It would inevitably cause a commotion in the entire Demon Saint Heavenly City. He was currently hiding in the Demon Saint Palace and did not want to be too conspicuous. Setting up a trap array was the best method. This way, even if there was a conflict and a huge battle, the trap array would be enough to seal off all the movements inside. The people outside would not be able to see what was happening inside. After successfully setting up the trap array, Zhuowen put away the array flags and set up a large array around him. He then walked towards the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm. Who are you? How dare you trespass into our Divine Peng Sect's territory? Are you tired of living? Chapter 3557. Hong Wn and Sai Yangbo. Maybe it's some hothead who thought the Spirit Phoenix trading firm was still here and came to buy something. Haha, there was a hothead who came to Demon Divine City last time. He asked if this was the Spirit Phoenix trading firm and was beaten to death. What an idiot. This one looks better than the previous one, but he's still very stupid. On the other side of the Golden Silk Sect's territory, several Golden Silk Sect disciples saw the conflict on the Divine Peng Sect side and immediately stood up. They looked like they were watching a good show and discussed it without restraint. Zhuowen looked at the man in front of him. This man had a head of golden hair and was probably at the peak of the creation realm. There were 4 people behind the golden-haired man. Their cultivation levels were also at the creation realm. They were clearly disciples of the Divine Peng Sect. I'm from Demon Divine Palace. Get your sect master to come out and talk, Zhuowen said calmly. Once these words were spoken, the several Divine Peng Sect disciples who were originally planning to make a move to tease Zhuowen were all stunned. You're a disciple of Demon Divine Palace? The golden-haired man asked in surprise. You're wrong. I'm a guardian of Demon Divine Palace, Zhuowen said calmly. What? A guardian of Demon Divine Palace? The golden-haired man trembled and said respectfully, I didn't know that you would suddenly come here. I'm sorry. Please wait here for a moment. I'll inform the sect master. With that, the golden-haired man hurriedly entered the depths of the cave dwelling. The Golden Silk Sect cultivators who were watching the show were also shocked. They quietly retreated and went to inform the sect master. Soon, a hearty laugh came from the depths of the Divine Peng Sect's territory. Then, a burly middle-aged man walked out from the depths of the territory. Haha, guardian of the Demon Saint Palace, you're finally here. Hey, who are you? The tall and sturdy middle-aged man had not yet arrived, but his voice had already sounded out. However, when he saw Zhuowen's face, he was immediately stunned, and his eyes were filled with doubt. Although he didn't have much contact with the Demon Saint Palace, he knew that there were a total of 5 enforcers in the Demon Saint Palace, and he had seen all 5 of them before. However, he was certain that this unfamiliar young man before him was definitely not one of the 5 great protectors. Who are you? How dare you impersonate a guardian of the Demon Saint Palace? Are you courting death? The middle-aged man's face was gloomy as he stared coldly at Zhuowen. At the same time, An extremely terrifying aura erupted from the middle-aged man's body. The moment he felt this aura, Zhuowen revealed a surprised expression. This middle-aged man was an early-stage third blight cultivator. It seemed like this person was the sect leader of the God Peng sect. Fellow Daoist, I'm afraid your news is outdated. I am Zhuowen, a newly promoted guest protector of the Demon Saint Palace. This time, it was the Great Protector who sent me to the ruins of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Oh, a newly promoted foreign guardian? The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with surprise, but he quickly reacted and laughed loudly. So that's how it is. I was reckless just now. I hope Protector Zhuo won't take offense. A newly promoted protector of the Demon Saint Palace? How come I didn't know about it at all? A cold and indifferent voice came from the Gold Silk Sect's territory. Zhuowen looked towards the source of the voice and discovered that in the depths of the Gold Silk Sect's territory, a graceful young woman wearing a veil slowly walked out. This young woman's skin was extremely white and her figure was even more voluptuous and seductive. Even with a veil, she still attracted the attention of most of the men present. This young woman must be a peerless beauty. What made Zhuowen even more surprised was that this beautiful young woman's aura wasn't any weaker than the middle-aged man from the God Peng sect. In fact, it was even stronger. She was actually an expert in the middle stage of the third blight. Looks like this young woman should be the sect master of the Gold Silk sect. Zhuowen thought to himself. I'm indeed a foreign guardian of the Demon Saint Palace. If you don't believe me, you can go ask the Demon Saint Palace. Zhuowen shrugged. Haha. The Demon Saint Palace is indeed the #1 sect in the demon realm. Our people have such a huge incident in the Demon Saint Heavenly City and they only started to take action now. Moreover, they only sent an insignificant foreign guardian. They really don't have any sincerity at all. The middle-aged man from the God Peng sect said coldly with an ugly expression. The young woman also shook her head and said, You're only a foreign guardian. You don't have the qualifications to discuss with us. Now, only the Great Protector of the Demon Saint Palace or the God Horn Protector can have the qualifications to discuss with us. Zhuowen smiled faintly and said, Everyone, you're thinking too much. I'm here on the orders of the Great Protector. I'm not here to discuss with you, but to give you an imperial edict. As he said that, Zhuowen took out the golden scroll that the Great Protector gave him and unfolded it. Only to see the golden scroll shine with boundless golden light, filling the entire space. And the words inside were even more clearly visible as if it was cast from gold. It was exceptionally dazzling. But after the people from the Golden Silk Divine Sect and God Peng Sect saw the contents of the Imperial Edict, they were all enraged. The Imperial Edict listed the crimes that the Golden Silk Divine Sect and God Peng Sect committed in the Demon Saint Heavenly City during this period of time. Furthermore, it asked the people from the Golden Silk Divine Sect and God Peng Sect to immediately scram out of the Demon Saint Heavenly City. After the Demon Saint came out of seclusion, he would naturally deal with their matters. Moreover, many words in the Imperial Edict expressed disdain and ridicule towards the Golden Silk Divine Sect and God Peng Sect. Zhuowen naturally also saw the contents of the Imperial Edict and sighed softly in his heart. He knew that some of the contents in this Imperial Edict that drew hatred must have been added by the Great Protector himself. He was also very clear that once this Imperial Edict came out, it was useless even if he argued. The Golden Silk Divine Sect and God Peng Sect would definitely not be able to resist taking action against him. And he would clearly become the Great Protector's sacrifice. Good, good, good. Not only does your Demon Saint Palace have no sincerity at all, you even look down on us? Since that's the case, our God Peng Sect won't give your Demon Saint Palace any face. This one is the sect master of the God Peng Sect, Sai Yonghua. I would like to see how you, the so-called guest protector who openly provoked our sect, fare. The middle-aged man, Sai Yonghua, was enraged. He coldly looked at Zhuowen and immediately attacked without holding back. Sai Yonghua's right hand formed into a claw and casually grabbed at Zhuowen. In his opinion, a mere guest protector of the Demon Saint Palace wouldn't be that strong. A first blight cultivation was already at the peak of the heavens. The beautiful woman was the sect master of the Golden Silk Divine Sect, Hong Wan. At this moment, Hong Wan's charming face was filled with thick frost. She was clearly enraged by the contents of the imperial edict. She coldly looked at Zhuowen and said to Sai Yongbua, "Sect Master Sai, after you capture this person, cripple his cultivation and break his limbs. Then come with me to the Demon Saint Palace to demand an explanation. Although our Golden Silk Divine Sect and God Peng Sect aren't as strong as the Demon Saint Palace, we still have fourth blight experts. How can we be humiliated like this?" Hong Wan's voice was cold and carried an unquestionable majesty. She didn't doubt that Sai Yongbua wouldn't be able to capture Zhuowen. In her eyes, Zhuowen was an insignificant person. She only resented the Demon Saint Palace's attitude towards their two sects. Hee, that's natural. The Demon Saint Palace is looking down on us. If we can endure it, doesn't that mean our two sects are afraid of the Demon Saint Palace? You have to know that even the Demon Saint Palace only has 2 fourth blight experts. Even if we join forces, we still have 2. We don't fear the Demon Saint Palace at all. Chapter 3558. 30% strength. His actions were very casual and it was obvious that he didn't put Zhuowen in his eyes. Zhuowen stood up straight and looked at Sai Yongbua's approaching hand. He sneered in his heart. Did Sai Yongbua really think that he was an ant that he could casually slap to death? Zhuowen slowly threw out a punch. It was very gentle and there was a faint purple aura around it. Catcher. The moment the fist and palm collided, the crisp sound of bones cracking resounded through the entire space. Then, the smile on Sai Yongbua's face completely froze and his entire face began to twitch. Hong Wan was attracted by the sound of bones cracking and she chuckled. "Sect Master Sai, this Zhuowen really can't take a single blow. He can't even take a single blow from you and he still calls himself a guardian of the Demon Saint Palace. Since when did the guardians of the Demon Saint Palace become so weak?" But soon, when Hong Wan's gaze landed on Sai Yongbua and Zhuowen, she felt that something was wrong. She couldn't continue her words and forcefully swallowed them back. Zhuowen's face was calm while Sai Yongbua's face was distorted as if he was enduring great pain. Their fists and palms still collided and didn't separate, but everyone could clearly see that Sai Yongbua's right arm was irregularly twisted. "Poochie! Poochie!" Sai Yongbua screamed and retreated. With every step he took back, a cloud of blood would burst out from his body. Sai Yongbua kept retreating for dozens of steps before spitting out a mouthful of blood. His body trembled and under everyone's shocked gaze, he knelt on the ground. Whether it was the disciples of the Golden Silk Sect or the Divine Peng Sect, they were all petrified. They stood there in a daze and couldn't say a word. Sai Yongbua was the sect master of the Divine Peng Sect and an expert at the early Third Blight. They thought that Sai Yongbua would be able to easily deal with the guest elder of the Demon Saint Palace. Who would have thought that Sai Yongbua would be defeated in a single blow? Moreover, he seemed to have suffered heavy injuries. The sect master of the Divine Peng Sect is only at this level. Zhuowen shook his head and sighed in disappointment. However, when his sigh reached Sai Yongbua's ears, it caused him to be greatly provoked. He felt that he had been humiliated, and he was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood. He wanted to attack again, but he found that a mysterious power was surging in his body, destroying his meridians. Now, he could only barely resist this mysterious power. How could he have the strength to fight again? You're also at the Third Blight? Hong Wan was also shocked, but she was not an ordinary person. She quickly regained her composure. When Zhuowen attacked, she clearly felt the aura around Zhuowen. It was the aura of an early-stage Third Blight cultivator. What she found strange was that although Zhuowen was also at the early stage of the Third Blight, he was able to defeat Sai Yongbo in one move. This made her feel very strange. How did this child do it? Logically speaking, half-step heaven-shattering realm powerhouses of the same tier were generally evenly matched in strength. It was very difficult to be like Zhuowen, defeating his opponent in one move. Hong Wan's cultivation was at the mid-stage of the Third Blight, a small realm higher than Sai Yongbwa, but she didn't think she could easily defeat Sai Yongbwa in one move. Sect Master Hong Wan, be careful. This boy has a very strange power. Once this power enters your body, it will destroy your meridians and organs. It's impossible to guard against it. Sai Yongbwa finally recovered a little. His face was slightly pale as he reminded Hong Wan in a deep voice. Hong Wan nodded and looked at Zhuowen seriously. No wonder you dared to come to our side alone. It turns out that you have a certain amount of strength to rely on. We underestimated you before. However, this is the end for you. You are at most at the early stage of the third blight. You might be able to defeat the careless Sai Yongbwa by relying on external forces, but if you face me now, I'm afraid you won't have a chance. Hong Wan's aura became more and more terrifying. Her entire body surged with terrifying red ripples that spread through the stars. There was actually a burning sensation. Zhuowen's lips curled up and he said with a faint smile, "You think I defeated Sai Yongbwa by luck? Isn't that the case?" Hong Wan sneered. Zhuowen shook his head and said, "You are really ignorant. Just now, I only used 30% of my strength. This Sai Yongbwa is really useless. He couldn't even take a punch with 30% of my strength. He is simply a waste. If I had used my full strength, he would have died on the spot. F***CK. Pay attention to your word. Who are you calling a waste? You just beat me by luck and now you are pretending in front of me. You even said that you only used 30% of your strength. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning?" Seeing Zhuowen calling him a waste, Sai Yongbwa couldn't help but swear. Hong Wan also shook her head and sneered, "You are too pretentious. But it doesn't matter because you will be defeated by me next. At that time, you will experience the real gap between you and me." With that, Hong Wan made a move. Her crystal-clear jade-like hand had already stretched out. Suddenly, the surrounding space was solidified by a blazing energy. This blazing energy was really surging, as if even the space was about to melt. "Interesting." Zhuowen sneered. Hong Wan's strength was indeed much stronger than Sai Yongbwa's, but that was it. Zhuowen smashed out a punch and the surrounding space that was sealed by the blazing energy collapsed with a loud bang. The blazing energy was also annihilated and dispersed. "What? How did your strength increase again?" Hong Wan was finally shocked when she saw Zhuowen break the space that she had sealed so easily. "It's not that my strength has increased, but that I am only using 50% of my strength now." Zhuowen's leisurely voice was heard. Then, a terrifying fist suddenly appeared behind Hong Wan. Hong Wan was helpless. She could only turn around and raise both of her hands. The endless blazing energy formed a terrifying vortex in front of her body. However, Hong Wan was shocked to find that her defense was completely useless under Zhuowen's fist. The moment it came into contact with the fist, it completely collapsed. Poochie. Zhuowen's fist landed on Hong Wan's hands and directly broke her hands. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. She screamed and her legs couldn't support her, so she sat on the ground. What? Even Hong Wan was defeated in one move. This guy really only used 30% of his strength when he fought with me. Sai Yongbwa, who was originally recuperating at the side, saw that Hong Wan was also defeated in one move. His eyes bulged out, and he only felt disbelief. In his heart, he was even more suspicious. Could it be that what this guy said before was true? That he only used 30% of his strength to defeat him? Thinking of this, Sai Yongbwa was simply in a mess. There was a strong sense of defeat in his heart. Sect leader Hong Wan, now you realize the gap between you and me. Zhuowen landed on the ground and looked at Hong Wan, who was sitting on the ground, with a smile. Hong Wan's pretty face turned green and white. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shame and anger. She said coldly, "You will regret it." Chapter 3559. Hung Wuzhuowen silently watched as Hong Wan took out the jade talisman but didn't stop her. He knew very well that Hong Wan took out the jade talisman to inform the old ancestor of Golden Silk Sect. His purpose for coming here was to meet the two early-stage Fourth Blight ancestors of the Golden Silk Sect and Divine Peng Sect to verify how powerful he was after advancing to the Fourth Blight. While Hong Wn took out the Jade Talisman, Sai Yangbo bent down and secretly sent a message to the old ancestor of Divine Peng Sect. Zhuowen only sneered at Sai Yangbo's little action and didn't stop him. At the same time, Zhuowen also noticed that there were terrifying array ripples in the surroundings. It was obvious that someone had activated the array that had been set up here. Moreover, this array was a half-step heaven-breaking death trap array. It was only a beginner half-step heaven-breaking death trap array. Zhuowen could easily break such a death trap array. Zhuowen, you're finished. Our old ancestor of Golden Silk Sect is about to come out. That will be the time of your death. Hong Wan stood up with difficulty. Her injured arms were gradually recovering and her flesh was wriggling. She looked at Zhuowen fiercely as though she was looking at a dead person. Hong Wan was very confident in the old ancestor of Golden Silk Sect. He was a Fourth Blight expert and was much stronger than her. In her opinion, Zhuowen was only at the Third Blight and the gap between him and a Fourth Blight expert was huge. He couldn't possibly be a match for a Fourth Blight expert. Did I allow you to stand up? Zhuowen looked at Hong Wan, who stood up again. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Hong Wan's snow-white neck before slamming her to the ground. Hong Wan couldn't resist Zhuowen's hand and was thrown to the ground like trash. She spat out a mouthful of blood and her delicate body trembled violently. She didn't dare to get up. Sai Yangbo, who wanted to stand up with Hong Wan, knelt on the ground again when he saw Hong Wan's miserable state. He looked at Zhuowen in horror. Many disciples of Golden Silk Sect and Divine Peng Sect were trembling with fear. They looked at Zhuowen with fear and retreated far away. They didn't dare to get close to Zhuowen. This ruthless person could easily defeat Sai Yangbo and Hong Wan, two sect master-level experts. If they went up against him, wouldn't they be courting death? Zhuowen, you are so ruthless. The old ancestor is coming soon. She will avenge me. Hong Wan was about to go crazy. She did not expect that Zhuowen would not have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. In any case, she was a great beauty, yet she was treated so rudely by this person. She was about to go crazy, and her face was full of shame and anger. Zhuowen couldn't be bothered with Hong Wan. His gaze landed on the depths of Golden Silk Divine Sect as he smirked. He felt an extremely powerful aura surging from the depths and instantly appeared in front of him. It was an old woman in a long robe. Her face was filled with traces of vicissitudes of life. But from the contours of her face, it could be seen that this old woman must have been a great beauty when she was young. The moment the old woman appeared, the disciples of Golden Silk Sect all bowed respectfully. The old woman swept her gaze around and saw Hong Wan on the ground. She was so severely injured that she couldn't get up. Her eyes were surging with anger. You are the protector sent by Demon Saint Palace? Is everyone from the Demon Saint Palace so rude? You have just arrived and you are already getting physical. Are you not putting our Golden Silk Sect in your eyes? The old woman's eyes were cold. Zhuowen knew that the old woman in front of him should be the old ancestor of Golden Silk Sect. He could feel the faint powerful aura emitting from the old woman. This old woman was definitely a terrifying expert that was much stronger than Hong Wan. Zhuowen knew that this old woman must be a Fourth Blight expert. Otherwise, she wouldn't have such a terrifying aura. Haha. Demon Saint Palace is too arrogant. They actually sent an ordinary protector and want to send us away. They are really looking down on us. Not long after the old woman finished speaking, a lazy and immature voice slowly sounded. A golden light swept over from the depths of God Peng Sect's territory. When the golden light faded away, a child who looked like a porcelain doll was revealed. Patriarch, you're finally here. This Zhuowen is a guest Dharma protector of the Demon Sage Palace. With just a little bit of strength, he dares to act so arrogantly. He even threatened to wipe out our base of operations and told us to get out of Demon Sage Heavenly City. When Sai Yangbo saw the child, he sighed in his heart. He quickly stood up and walked to the child's side. He pointed at Zhuoan and accused him with righteous indignation. Trash. You can't even deal with a guest protector of Demon Saint Palace. You are really a good-for-nothing sect master, the child said coldly. Sai Yangbo was submissive and didn't dare to refute the child. Fellow Daoist Shen Ya. This child first offended my god Peng sect's territory, so this time, I will take care of him. You don't have to worry about it. The child cupped his hands at the old woman and said indifferently. The old woman called Shen Ya had a calm expression and shook her head. Fellow Daoist Heng Wu, your words are wrong. This person injured my Hong Wan to this extent. How can I not take revenge? Leave it to me to teach this person a lesson. Fellow Daoist Heng Wu can just watch. This won't do. How can I trouble fellow Daoist Shen Ya with such a small matter? Or should I do it? Heng Wu waved his hand. However, before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Zhuoan. You guys are pushing back and forth like this. How long are you going to push back? If you want to attack, then attack together. Why push back and forth? Zhuoan said calmly. Both Heng Wu and Shen Ya were stunned. Their gazes landed on Zhuoan in unison, even suspecting that there was something wrong with their ears. This guy actually wanted the two of them to join forces. This guy was thinking too highly of himself, right? The two of them were at any rate the old ancestors of a sect. Their status was incomparably noble, and their strength could cover the sky with one hand. Any one of them casually taking action was already giving this boy a lot of face. This boy was still unforgiving and wanted them to join forces. Was he looking down on them? What an arrogant brat. You're merely a mere third blight cultivation and you actually want the two of us to join forces? Really don't know life from death. Heng Wu said with a disdainful sneer. Really wishy-washy. Since you guys aren't making a move, then I'll do it. Zhuoan said impatiently. Taking a step out, he headed straight for Heng Wu. Purple light suffused around his body, mysterious and powerful. Courting death. Heng Wu was furious. He was actually being looked down upon by a mere third blight cultivator. This was simply a great humiliation to him. He wanted to crush this third blight until alive. Heng Wu's entire body shone with golden light. In the void behind him, a giant golden-winged rock appeared. Shen Ya didn't attack. She had her own pride. She wasn't going to join forces with Heng Wu to deal with a third blight cultivator. Boom. The two instantly collided. Purple light and golden light exploded, forming a terrifying energy storm. This energy storm instantly spread out. The trap and kill array that originally enveloped the territory trembled violently the moment it was bombarded by the energy storm, as if it was about to collapse at any time. In just an instant, Zhuoan and Heng Wu had exchanged dozens of blows. Every collision caused extremely terrifying energy ripples to erupt. The more Heng Wu fought, the more shocked he became. The moment he exchanged blows with Zhuoan, he already knew that this guy's cultivation was only at the early stage of the third blight. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.